The girl talks about another world that exists between the world of people and the world of spirits. The rustling of tall spiritual trees is heard behind. Arriving at the place with a group of children and the main character, the girl points to one of the spiritual trees, and the rustling of the tree is heard along the way. The elven-looking girl tells our protagonist that such trees have a growth limitation and therefore need to be cut down periodically. The girl then gives the protagonist the task of cutting down this tree. Under the rustle of grass, the main character agrees to this task, after which the elf girl thanks the main character, whose name is Eisen. Eisen raises his left hand, which begins to be enveloped in a magical aura and simultaneously casts a spell. Thus he begins to ask for help from the mighty winds of another world, that with the help of words they will give him their power. Waving his left hand, he continues to speak the spell. His words will transform the power into a blade. With his slash spell, he releases the aura from his hand that had been built up during the spell's casting time and cuts the tree with a powerful wave. The force of the wave caused a shockwave that caused a powerful wind to blow. The sound of a slowly falling tree can be heard, causing the children to marvel at the beautiful and incredible sight. The children praise Eisen for his strength and continue to watch the falling spiritual tree. A splash of water is heard in the river where the tree subsequently fell. The main character turns to the children and says that they are all children of spirits, and that each of them will sooner or later be capable of this. He adds to his words that before learning a strong spell, it is necessary to think about what effect this or that spell will have, to which the children take his words into account. The elven-looking girl thanks Eisen for giving the children instructions, to which Eisen replies that this is simply compensation for allowing them to stay in another world, and that he is ready to come out to help at any time. The main character's name is Eisen Otherworld. He has been living in this other world for 20 years. Upon returning home, he greets an elven-looking girl named Reincarnation, who is a descendant of a long-lived race. The girl is surprised by the sudden voice while sweeping the terrace. She turns around with a happy expression and greets the returning teacher Eisen with a smile. Rin cheerfully tells Eisen that he has received another letter, to which he reacts with confusion. It should be noted that Rin lives with Eisen as his apprentice. Eisen, with a smile on his face and a polite, calm voice, says that there is one thing he wants to tell Rin. The guy says that he is going to go on a trip, to which the girl is surprised by such news, stopping her work. Entering the depths of the house, the girl begins to question the teacher about such a rush, to which Eisen replies that 20 years have passed since the demonic blade was defeated. Teacher Eisen was summoned to this world to help, but the demonic blade feels better, to which he asks the girl to see for herself. Entering the room, Eisen admires what he sees. There is a huge stack of letters on the table. The girl asks if the teacher actually read all of this, to which Eisen promptly agrees. Eisen says that all these letters are from his old students and that it was difficult to get them here. The students sent him letters every month. Rin says that she remembers how one day the teacher asked to read all these letters to Rin and that the letters only told good news. With admiration and a smile, Rin asks the teacher to read the letters again. The girl sits down on the sofa and opens the first letter. At the same time, Eisen moves to the desk. Reading the letter, the girl learns that most of the students have grown up. They are known as the 100 Heroes. Many of them became sages, rulers, commanders-in-chief. They became both directors of magic academies and rulers of hundreds of empires. The girl notes that all the letters are letters from geniuses who, like children, are waiting for praise from their father. Rennie speaks with admiration about how the students are happy to talk about their achievements. Rin continues to read the letters, from which it becomes clear that the students talk about the lands and discoveries that they themselves have discovered and studied, and also left recommendations on where to go. Eisen, having accepted the hint of a journey to see the beauty of the world, decides to go to the world of people to see everything with his own eyes. But Eisen fears that the news of the master going to the human world could disturb many innocent people, since the students live in different places. Subsequently, the main character decides to travel alone, and if a meeting does happen, then a simple greeting with a student will be enough. The girl understands his words and asks with a smile whether Eisen's trip will be kept secret, to which he confirms her words. Rin rephrases her words and with a little excitement, but with the same joy, asks Eisen if he wants to return to the human world. The teacher agrees with Rin's words and then says that he has experience in this, and that this will be a restoration after 20 years of being in another world. Raising his right hand, Eisen begins to recite a spell, addressing the letters and asking them to hear his call. At this moment, Rin looks at what is happening in surprise. The letters from the table where Rin was sitting rise up and begin to circle chaotically around the room. Excitedly but with surprise, the girl says that his spell is the magic of the prophet. With such power, he can control everything on Earth. The letters circling around the room change their direction after the teacher's words, indicate a certain letter that must appear before him, and decide which way to go. Having chosen the letter, Eisen says that it is from that moment that he begins his journey. Then he tells Rinna that she is free and can go wherever she wants, to which the girl agrees and decides to go with the teacher. After some time, the team of male and female students are getting ready for a trip. A rumble is heard from the house, to which Eisen asks Rin how long it will take her to get ready. The girl immediately answers that she doesn't have much time left and bursts out of her room with a bang, which Eisen looks at with fear and surprise. The girl apologizes for the wait, showing off her new beautiful travel bag where she collected her necessary things. The girl then incredibly admires the teacher's old equipment, to which he responds in kind, saying that she too is well prepared for the journey. After leaving the house and on the way, the teacher asks if she wants to go with him, as he said that students should not accompany the teacher, to which the girl replies that she just wants to take care of the teacher. The girl shyly asks if Eisen is okay with her going with him, since she is free to do whatever she wants, to which he says with a joyful smile that he is not against it and will be glad to have her company, to which the girl immediately became cheerful and embarrassed. Rin nevertheless admits that she prepared for this day for a very long time, to which Eisen says that such an outcome was expected of her. Stopping at a suitable place, Eisen is about to summon the Gate of Light. A second later, the same gates gradually emerge from under the ground, becoming larger and larger. After the gate is finished raising, Rin says that it has been 20 years since the last transition between worlds, to which Eisen agrees and says that he is more excited than he expected. At the same time, the teacher notices the figure of a girl appearing from behind the gate. The girl is an elder spirit who confirms the team's presence and asks Eisen if he is leaving them. The team of male and female students look at the elder spirit, confused, and she laughs at the expressions on their faces. Rin is delighted to thank the spirit for taking care of them. With joy in his eyes, Eisen says that his students have tried to contact him many times and that it is time for him to leave. He appreciates everything the Elder Spirit has done for him, to which she recalls the moment when he first arrived in this world. The Elder Spirit emphasizes that Eisen has not changed at all in 20 years. Eisen muses about the flow of time in this world, and that it is because of this that he has not changed in these 20 years, after which he thanks the Elder Spirit for everything. The Elder Spirit says that there is no need to thank her. Besides, she was also responsible for the events related to the demonic blade. Silhouettes of children appear next to the Elder Spirit. Pointing at them, the Elder Spirit says that Eisen took good care of her children. Having appeared, the children immediately rush to the teacher, thanking him for everything. At this moment, Eisen is happy to see them all and is glad that they came. The Elder Spirit tells Eisen that he can always contact her if he needs anything in this world. Pointing to the children, she continues that these little spirits will be much stronger by the time they meet again. By extending his hand, Eisen confirms her words and will definitely contact her as soon as the time comes. The Elder Spirit extends his hand in return, which is followed by a handshake. The children, in chorus and in turns, shout good luck after the departing teacher and her student, and wait for their return, to which the team of teacher and student say goodbye to them in response and promise to see them again. Eisen is determined, thus reminding Rin of their secret return and inviting her to go around the world together, to which Rin agrees with teacher Eisen. The slowly opening gate to another world brings anxiety and uncertainty to Eisen and Rin. They see a bright shining light in the opening doors, after which they step inside and disappear from this world. At this time in the human world in the heart of the city of Riga, amazing things are happening. One of Eisen's students, the current king of the kingdom, Duke Dario, is amazed by a group of wizards who are constantly chanting a spell. Bowing their heads before the altar, they offer the magic balls to the altar. Looking at the ritual, King Duke says that after many years they all achieved results, and according to legends, there was once a man called the Prophet, and who had the power to defeat the demonic blade. The tired mages ask in admiration if his words are true, to which the king answers in the affirmative and gives them the right to rest. Having thrown open the doors of the ritual room, he leaves it, thinking along the way about the monthly expenses for the ritual, which eventually brought results. With a smile on his face, King Duke Dario is delighted by the return of Master Eisen. While on the road, he orders his soldiers to search for a man who calls himself a prophet. The king is not sure that this is really his teacher who has returned to the world of people. Reflecting on this, Duke comes to the conclusion that besides him, the prophet, there is no one with such power. Duke remembers the past, how many years ago he received instruction from Eisen. Duke believes that all his achievements are due to him. With glowing eyes, he makes a promise to himself that he will make every effort to find a teacher, and then Eisen will get what he deserves. Among all the students, Duke is one of the most devoted. At this time, not far from the city of Riga, in the forest thicket on the ledge of the mountain, a gate appears from which Eisen and Rin emerge. They look around and admire the vastness and beauty of this world. Seeing the city, Eisen says that they appeared not far from the city of pioneers. Rin supports the teacher's words and continues that this city has been there for a long time, but a lot has changed in it. Rin says she knows a little about this world from the letters of her students, to which Eisen asks how she remembered all of this, to which Rin marvels that it is all thanks to her race's excellent memory. Rin proudly and enthusiastically says that she remembers all the letters that Eisen gave her to read, so the teacher can rely on her if he is interested in anything. Eisen looks around at the nature and admires it. He knew that the forest had long since recovered, but to see it with his own eyes was a real joy. Turning to Rinna, he suggests that they go to the nearest city. The teacher wants to visit some places in this world, to which Rin cautiously agrees with Eisen's choice. Looking at him, the student looks at the glowing staff in fear and clarifies that for some reason the book in Eisen's staff began to glow. The teacher, taking the staff closer, explains to Rinna that the glow of the book is connected to a part of the power that is sealed in this world, to which the student excitedly and surprisedly asks Eisen again about the sealed power. Eisen and Rin look at the glow of the staff. The light from the book in the staff becomes brighter when Eisen points it to the side. He says that the staff is reacting unusually, which means they are heading in the right direction. They walk down the hill into the forest, Eisen telling them a story along the way. 20 years ago, he fought against a demonic blade and eventually defeated it. As a result, Eisen found himself on the brink of life and death, from where he lost the ability to control his powers. At this moment, Rin listens to the teacher's story with admiration and is amazed by the beauty of this forest. Eisen has sealed most of his power in various places. When approaching a tree, the bark of a certain part of the tree begins to glow, which reacts to the book in the staff in Eisen's hands. A ball with a bright glow is created in front of Eisen and the tree, which absorbs the power of the tree's bark. Looking at all this, Rin calls out to the teacher in surprise and excitement. Eisen calms the student down and says that she shouldn't worry so much. A sheet of paper appears in front of them with a glow. Then, inscriptions appear on it, which mean the condition for confirming the removal of the seal. The book in Eisen's staff opens up, then it snaps shut as a piece of a page flies in. Surprised, Rin asks Eisen if he has his powers back. The teacher confirms her words and points to the last page of the book in the staff. On the left page of the book, there are 2 lines written which indicate that the power-up skill has been learned. Thoughtfully, Eisen nevertheless confirms the return of his powers. Joyfully and admiringly, Rin begins to question Eisen. With particular joy, she says that now, the teacher has become much stronger than before. Laughing, the teacher says that he has become even stronger than she could have thought. He also thinks that the power enhancement skill improves only part of the characteristics and not the whole person. On the way back, Rin asks about the plans for this trip and whether it was necessary for the sake of restoring the teacher's strength. Eisen refutes her guesses and says that it is just a coincidence that they ended up here. He then talks about his final goal, which is to visit all of his students. Along the way, he gets the feeling that he needs to get his powers back. Coming out of the forest and climbing the hill, Eisen continues to talk about his powers and getting them back. It's an incredible feeling for him. Suddenly, Rin heard a sound behind her. Rin, calmly but cautiously, interrupts Eisen and warns him to be careful. Eisen just sighs and turns around. He says that he noticed them a long time ago. 3 monsters appear from the forest and move towards them. With wooden clubs with angry eyes and dirty fur, with large fangs and slobbering mouths, low-level beasts, lower trolls, climbed out at them. Eisen doesn't understand why these animals are in the middle of the forest. Rin calmly but at the same time angrily was ready to rush into battle, to which Eisen interrupts her and wants to do everything himself, at the same time testing his strength. The lower trolls nevertheless run out of the forest and angrily head towards the armed Eisen. Growling, these lower trolls get closer and closer to Eisen. The book in the staff begins to turn its pages. Eisen, with a smirk on his face, tells these beasts that they will go to the lower world. Eisen then casts the Blazing Spears spell, causing long spears blazing with light and fire to appear around him. Quickly and sharply, these spears pierce each of the lower trolls. One of the trolls is surprised and does not understand such power. The spear pierces the troll in the stomach, causing him to roar loudly and furiously. Igniting, the lower troll begins to roar in pain. In the place where the trolls were, only pillars of flame are visible which envelop all of them. Eisen with a grin on his face, pleased with his work. Rin is in awe but at the same time excited, saying that the teacher's magic is as strong as ever. The trolls continue to burn in the fire. Clouds of smoke are visible from the fiery bodies. Eisen, looking at all this, is surprised by this fire. This fire is stronger than when he used it in another world. In one of the burnt trolls, a stone is visible that shines brightly. Coming closer, Eisen takes this stone from the troll's carcass and says that it is a magic stone. Eisen explains that they can collect magic stones from the carcasses of animals. These stones are very useful as they are universal in their kind. They can be both sold and exchanged for items. Since Eisen has dealt with all the problems, he offers Rinna a walk to the nearest city. The sound of a river flowing nearby can be heard. Eisen and Rin walk along a stone path that leads to a nearby town. As the wind blows, Eisen admires the road and the river. Time itself has helped make this place more favorable for life. Eisen relaxes under the calm of this path. Rin happily confirms his words. Suddenly, they notice a man searching for something in the thick grass next to the team of a teacher and a student. This man is worried and anxious about the loss of his thing. If this thing is not here, the warehouse will not be opened and everyone will be in danger. That person was a girl who accidentally turned around and saw Eisen and Rin. She shouts from a distance and apologizes for disturbing them. She asks them if they have seen a multicolored key. The girl begins to explain to passersby and show with her actions what exactly this key was. Eisen and Rin deny and say that they have not seen anything like this, and add that they have only recently arrived here. The girl sighs with disappointment and excitement. She has almost no time left and she does not know what to do now. With a little madness and a lot of excitement, the girl keeps repeating that she has to find this key and that it should be somewhere here. At this moment, Eisen and Rin exchange glances. Eisen kindly offers a helping hand, to which the girl is glad to receive help from passersby. She was a little hesitant, because she couldn't accept their help since they were going about their business. Eisen interrupts her and says that it won't take long. In any case, the girl will be the one to find the lost thing, which she is perplexed about. The girl was just collecting herbs, but suddenly a beast called a kobold appeared. The girl decides to drive this beast away with shouts and exclamations. At that moment, the key chain broke. She didn't immediately remember that her keys were missing. After telling this story to Eisen, he immediately understood everything and asked her to wait a few seconds. Coming out onto the path, he bends down and places his hand on the stone from which the path is made. Touching the earth like water, he addresses it, asking it to answer his call. The place he touched begins to glow with sparks. He asks the ground where the key that the girl lost is. He concentrates on seeing those same sparks that are heading towards one point. The girl does not understand what is happening here and asks if everything is okay here, to which Eisen confirms her words. Next, Eisen asks the girl about the place where she learned about the loss. Then he points to a tree next to which lies a rotten and hollow log. The girl confirms Eisen's words and asks if he has found the missing item. Eisen asks not to rush him, and for now he can only tell the approximate location of the missing item. At the moment when the girl was chasing away the kobold, she caught on a knot of a log, which caused her to break the chain on which the keys were hanging. Then Eisen points to an old log and asks the girl to look for the missing item there. The girl immediately agrees and runs to the log. Eisen looks at what is happening as a simple inattention of the girl. In the grass she notices a key and with joy in her eyes, she shouts to passersby about the lost thing she has found. She thanks the passersby profusely, to which Eisen says that there is no need for thanks besides, the girl found the missing item herself. Then the girl apologizes with a little excitement and asks about the magic that Eisen used, whether he could see her past and future with this magic. Eisen explains to the girl that this is not a high-level magic and that absolutely any magic can do such things. He then says that this is a skill called lost item detection. This skill is quite useful in such cases. The spirits of the land remember everything, how she chased away the kobold and how the chain with the key got caught on a protruding branch. The girl asks if Eisen is a great fortune teller, to which he denies her words. Eisen ponders that this is the first time this girl has seen this kind of magic. After all, even before he left, there weren't many people who used this kind of magic. The girl admires and happily calls Eisen the guardian of spirits. She is indebted to him and asks them to introduce themselves. The passersby introduce themselves as Eisen and Rin. The girl will definitely thank them. Then she notices that they were heading to the city and asks them what the purpose of their visit is. Eisen replies that he and Rin were planning to stop there for a while. The girl then invites them to come to the Guild Alchemist's garden when they have time. She will repay them in full for their kindness. Hurrying, the girl offers her words of gratitude and bids farewell to Eisen and Rin. Eisen notices the girl's activity. Rin kindly says that the girl is very happy that she returned the keys and notes that the teacher is as kind as always. Continuing his journey to the nearby town, Eisen says that he is in a great mood. This journey brings only joy and relaxation. Rin confirms the teacher's words and suggests that he meet all obstacles with a smile. Following the Eisen and Rin trail, you will find yourself in the picturesque and lively town of Sagittale. Rin is glad that they entered this city without incident or obstacles. They stand at the entrance to the branch of the Global Guild, which, to Eisen's surprise, has become larger. He then explains that the Global Guild is an association that collects information about professionals from all over the world. He goes on to talk about the guild system. When a person registers, they receive a global card, which will be used as identification when crossing borders or visiting cities. Rin notes that the Guildmaster's general manager also mentioned this in his letter. Eisen says that this is true and remembers how Rin consulted him about this a long time ago. Eisen admires the appearance of the guild branch and thinks that seeing the result with his own eyes now is very impressive. Entering the branch, they pass between many tables which were seated by various people. Going further, they are met by a girl behind the counter. She greets them and asks how she can help them. Eisen wants to make a guild map. The girl asks Eisen again and clarifies what the global guild map will be used for. Eisen needs this map because he wants to travel around the world. The girl is surprised by Eisen's unexpected proposal and says that this will make him an adventurer. Eisen does not understand the girl's surprise, to which she replies that few people become adventurers in peacetime. Eisen ponders his choice because when registering the card, he will receive a collection of professions. Having chosen one, he will already be able to work as a company. In the past, only 30% of people who became adventurers traveled accepting various requests. Laughing, the girl says that they are brave guys, and this is exactly what she desires in each of the people who come here. She then apologizes as they have gotten off topic. Handing over 2 sheets of paper with a form, she asks Eisen and Rin to fill them out with their name and job. Rin, picking up the sheet of paper, is surprised by the large number of professions, to which Eisen says that this is her first time and she shouldn't be surprised. Then Eisen speaks and reminds her of the principle of this form. She just needs to circle the profession she wants. She can choose one or several professions to choose from. Eisen muses that he is a prophet, a scholar, and about 4 or 5 other professions. His previous card was destroyed in a battle with an evil god. He is glad that the card can be issued as many times as desired. Reading the form, Eisen is surprised. A girl at the counter addresses him, to which Eisen says that he cannot find the profession of a prophet. The girl's face immediately changes and with great excitement asks him the profession of a prophet. Eisen doesn't understand anything and asks the girl again, to which she says that his words are not a joke. She then explains that the last prophet died 15 years ago. She then adds that all prophets are dead. Eisen confirms the girl's words with a sarcastic laugh. She then adds that if he chooses the profession of a prophet, he will be haunted by the dead and a reaper will be summoned. However, there is something more serious. Eisen and Rin excitedly ask her again. The girl is surprised that Eisen so easily called himself a prophet. She tells a short story about how the current king has been issuing a decree for many years that if anyone calls themselves a prophet, they are to be reported immediately. Rin and Eisen are surprised by the king's decree. The girl warns Eisen that if he really called himself a prophet, he will be protected. It will be a big event. After her convictions, she asks Eisen again if he has changed his mind. She adds to her story and says that in the past there was a serious case when someone introduced himself as a prophet and was captured. Eisen ponders over the girl's words and thinks that it would be best not to tell anyone that he is a prophet. At this moment, he looks at Rin, who is very worried about this. Then Eisen turns to the girl and says that all his words were a joke. He will sign up for another job and thanks Miss Registrar for the story. The girl hopes that her story will help them in the future. The joke about the prophet seems strange to the girl, coming from such a person who is going to be a brave traveler. Eisen thinks to himself that it can't be true, and he can't let them get into trouble because of the guards patrolling the city. After all, the king overdid it with the decree. Looking at the form, Eisen thinks about what profession he should choose that will allow him to travel without incident. A profession he is suited for. He ends up circling the profession of spiritualist and then puts his initials on the form. The girl takes the forms and asks to wait a little while the card is ready. After a while, she takes out the card and puts it on the table next to the filled-in form. She takes the seal with symbols in her hand and with a sharp movement places the seal on the form and the card. The signature and chosen profession on the form begin to glow and are transferred to the card. The inscriptions were placed on the map. The girl gives the finished map to Eisen and welcomes him to the Global Guild again, but this time as a spiritualist. Eisen takes the map in his hands and admiringly thanks Miss Registrar. Behind him, laughter and noisy conversations can be heard from people sitting at tables. The receptionist asks Eisen to come to the table at the end of the counter. He sees an empty table and asks what else needs to be done. Miss Receptionist brings a board with spheres on it, which are connected by an unusual pattern. Eisen and Rin don't understand what it is and ask Miss Registrar what this board is. The girl explains that it is a magical power research board. Many people don't know about this thing and therefore make a map for the first time. Arson anxiously thinks that this is just a misunderstanding and that this is just his perception of the post-war guild reform. The girl then explains that those people who made the new map must measure their magic power, after which they will be distributed from S rank to K rank. Also, taking into account the individual ability values, the guild will be able to choose a suitable job for them and reduce the number of accidents in dangerous work. Eisen then remembers that one of the letters he received from his students said that his student had invented a tool for measuring magical power that was used in the guild. The receptionist girl says that whoever came up with this rule was one of the 100 heroes. She would like to thank all the heroes, as well as their teachers. Eisen thinks that the creation of this thing is his student. Then he asks what they should do. Miss Receptionist suggests Eisen to go to the table on which the invention is located and touch the right edge of the board. Approaching the table, he slowly reaches out his hand to a special detector for measuring magical power. The girl explains that the number of broken crystals will show the level of magical power. Rank K if the crystal on the right breaks, rank G if all 5 crystals break. The average value of a new spiritualist reaches rank H. Suddenly all the crystals break and a small smoke comes from them. The girl, looking at the broken crystals, is very surprised and a little afraid. Eisen tells the registrar that all the crystals are broken. Many people sitting at the tables were amazed by Eisen's actions, and everyone turned their gaze to him. The crowd cheered and said that it was a rare occurrence that a new spiritualist had broken all the crystals on the research board. The girl confirms the words from the crowd and says that Eisen has great magical power. She writes down the G mark in her journal. Eisen then asks what to do next, to which Miss Registrar asks them to wait a little. After a while, she brings a new board, but with fewer crystals. This board will be able to determine rank F and rank D. Eisen agrees and immediately begins measuring. Touching the edge of the board, the crystals instantly break. The girl is even more surprised and cannot believe it. Many people in the crowd who were watching the process of measuring Eisen's magic power began to express dissatisfaction and surprise. Many said that it was the first time they saw a newcomer break through the ranks so quickly. Eisen notices that there are more people. He wonders if there are many D rankers among this crowd. Miss Registrar excitedly brings another board and asks Eisen to use it. There are only 4 crystals on the new board. Eisen sees that the letters S, A, B, C are written on it. He thinks that this is most likely the last board and wants to figure it out as soon as possible. Slowly touching the edge of the board, the first crystal instantly cracks. The crowd watching Eisen is delighted, happy, and jubilant. Rin is a little nervous about such a crowd. Eisen makes a show out of it. Miss Registrar is delighted by what is happening, but at the same time she is overcome with anxiety that if he reaches B rank, she will have to report it to the castle. She tries to calm herself down. The girl calms herself down with thoughts about the report, which she must check the format of in order to send it to the king later. Eisen, hearing this, did not show any particular expression. Subsequently, the crystal breaks. The crowd began to rejoice even more and ask many questions. Eisen realizes that this could be dangerous. The second crystal cracks. It starts to crack faster and faster. Eisen tries to control his power. The last crack sounded. The crystal stopped cracking. Miss Registrar looks at the board in surprise and says that the measurement is finished and now Eisen has rank C. Eisen's strength and how quickly he reached C rank. The crowd behind him also cheers for Eisen's strength. With a little excitement, Eisen thanks the crowd for their words of admiration, after which he thinks that he is happy to stop at C rank. Eisen muses that if he had broken a B rank crystal, someone would have reported it to the king at the castle. Such an event would have caused a stir. He would be glad if he could travel without incident. The girl says that if only he had been a little bit more, he would have been a B rank. Eisen agrees with a little excitement and thanks her for what she said. He will take her words into account for the future. The receptionist girl wants to give a final parting gift and asks Eisen and Rin to wait a bit. Eisen confirms the result and says that his job is now a spiritualist. Showing his guild card, Eisen says that his magic power rank is C rank. He then turns to Rin and says that since her power is above all these ranks, she doesn't have to follow him, to which Rin says that she's only too happy to travel with him. After a while, Miss Registrar appears and apologizes for the wait. Eisen notices a man next to the girl and asks who he is. The man asks the girl, whose name is Keisha, to tell them the whole situation. The girl introduces the man as Dominic, who is an E-rank spiritualist. She also adds that he is a 10-year veteran and that as a parting gift they will train with him. Dominic greets them. Eisen and Rin are surprised by Kataja's words about the farewell lesson. The girl adds that every newcomer who receives a card accepts a free lesson from the guild so that he can acquire the necessary skills and knowledge. Eisen is happy that the guild does it for free and that the classes are taught by a real teacher, which is much better than a simple textbook. Keisha says that if you use textbooks, it will be like a game, so they hire specialists. Keisha also adds that because of their quality work, the trust in the guild and the company is maintained. She adds that this scheme was created by an advisor named Felicia. Next, Keisha continues that she wanted to thank the advisor, to which she said that it was all thanks to the teacher's advice, so Keisha should thank him specifically. Keisha always thought that the teacher was a great and wise man. At this moment, Eisen is a little embarrassed by Miss Registrar's words, but at the same time he understands that in other places he is treated a little differently. Eisen remembers that he once received a letter with a question from Felicia. In the end, he felt the result of his help on himself. Keisha says that all the sorcerers are elsewhere, so Rin is not here. Eisen accepts Keisha's offer and subsequently asks Dominic to take care of him during training. Dominic also asks to take care of him during training. He also thought that he would be rejected because of his E rank. After a while, Eisen and Dominic go to the 2F training room. The room is equipped with several chairs and windows from which rays of light shine. Dominic and Eisen simply stand opposite each other. Dominic says that a spirit mage communicates with spirits and also uses their magic and skills, while he reaches for the pouch that is attached to his belt. Dominic continues to talk about spirits, that essentially a person asks for power from the spirits of nature or makes a contract with them in order to always be able to use their power. Along the way, Dominic opens his pouch. A magical essence suddenly and sharply bursts out of the pouch. Eisen is surprised and cannot say a word. This essence envelops Dominic's hand and reaches for his neck. Eisen asks Dominic if the blue light is a spirit, to which Dominic replies that it is, and to be precise, it is a low-class light spirit, one of his contracted spirits. In Dominic's case, he has received requests from cartographers and scouts because he has flying spirits that survey the area. He gives one example of these spirits surveying the area for demonic beasts. Dominic continues that since Eisen is an adventurer, companies will have fewer jobs. Also, many people think that such work is not worth attention. Eisen thanks Dominic and says that thanks to him, he will be able to prepare himself for the future. Dominic continues talking and tells Eisen how to properly deal with the spirit. Extending his hand forward, he casts a spell to create a magic ball. Concentrating, he accumulates magical power above his palm. The blue spirit instantly moves towards this ball. It begins to absorb and merge with the ball. After a while, the spirit completely absorbed him. Eisen asks what this is, and Dominic replies that it is only an encouragement with food. Dominic continues to say that if he gives the spirit food in the form of magic, then the spirit will help him in exchange. In addition, with this magic, Dominic can summon the spirit and can make it sing. Eisen ponders the honesty of the spirits and that they will try to return what they received. Dominic calls out to him, asking if he remembered everything, to which Eisen confirms his words. Eisen immediately casts the spell to create a magic ball, and a ball appears above his palm. Dominic is amazed and surprised by Eisen's power and says that he was able to make a ball on the first try, and is also amazed by C-rank magic. Eisen thanks Dominic and says that the spirit thanks him too, to which Dominic just laughs. He is glad that Eisen thinks well of him and asks his spirit to come closer. Dominic then thanks the spirits for their help. The blue spirit exclaims and makes characteristic squeals. Eisen notes that the spirits and Dominic have a great relationship. Dominic replies that they have been together for a long time. Eisen then asks Dominic if he is communicating with the spirit. Dominic is surprised by Eisen's words. He continues to say that the spirits talk to Dominic a lot. Dominic is even more surprised and asks Eisen if he understands the language of spirits, to which he calmly confirms Dominic's words. Dominic continues to say that when he strokes a spirit, it starts to squeak. He then asks Eisen what this could mean. He takes the spirit in his hands, which begins to emit a characteristic squeak. Dominic, perplexed and surprised, asks Eisen what these squeals mean while holding the spirit in his hand. Eisen tells Dominic that he hears the voice of the spirit, and that he is grateful to Dominic that he values him. Eisen continues to translate the spirit's words. The spirit says that it doesn't care how many magic balls Dominic uses. At this point, Dominic is simply perplexed by what is happening. Dominic can't believe it and asks the spirit if Eisen's words are true, to which the spirit suddenly and joyfully starts jumping from side to side. Dominic notices this and exclaims, saying that it's all a joke. Eisen says that he simply translated the spirit's words and that he is not lying to Dominic. In response, he is surprised and says that Eisen is simply an amazing person. Dominic says that it is difficult for humans to understand the language of spirits, and that only high-level spirit mages can use the spirit-speaking technique. Eisen asks Dominic if this spirit-speaking technique is difficult, to which he replies that it is. Dominic says that he has been practicing this technique for a long time and has only learned a few words. Dominic says that he can understand the feelings of a spirit by its movements. He also heard that some people are able to talk to spirits from birth, but he did not think that he would see such a person with his own eyes. Eisen looks at Dominic in surprise. Eisen smiles and thinks that Dominic praises him too much. He also thinks that Dominic is a good person. Dominic broke out in a cold sweat from Eisen's silence. Then he says that he is very surprised by everything that was said and told. Dominic says he thought he couldn't be surprised anymore, but Eisen did it. Eisen is a very promising person. Laughing, Dominic says that Eisen ended up teaching him. Dominic says that's all and they end the training. Eisen is surprised by the sudden end of the training. Dominic says with admiration and a smile that Eisen will become a first-class spirit mage. As his mentor, Dominic will give Eisen positive recommendations. Dominic says with a smile that Eisen is better than him in communicating with spirits and that he lost here. Eisen thinks that simply being able to talk to spirits will give him a good grade. Dominic apologizes and says that he was unable to teach Eisen much, but that they are now colleagues. Eisen denies Dominic's words and says that he is very grateful for the training. Dominic says that he is glad to meet an experienced spirit mage, to which Eisen thanks him. After some time, Eisen returns to the common hall of the guild branch. He is met by Rin, who received a map of the city from Keisha. The map also shows the hotels. Eisen encourages Rin and tells her that they need one of those. Rin replies that Miss Receptionist said that there are many good inns around the guild. Eisen wants to choose a good place because they will be in this city for about a week. Rin agrees, looking at the city map. Rin managed to talk to the bartender, who said that the exchange rate in the world has not changed much in 20 years, so they can live in a good hotel for 3 months. Rin is glad she took the magic bag. They won't have any money problems for a while. Eisen says that as an adventurer, he can sell information about where they went to cartographers. Suddenly, a girl interrupts their conversation, addressing them by name. Eisen and Rin recognize the girl. It was the same girl who lost the key. She introduces herself as Eureka the Alchemist. The girl praises the god and says that they were talked about in the guild, so she decided to meet them in person. She says that it is fate to meet them here. Surprised and perplexed, Eisen asks Eureka how much is known about them. Eureka says that there is no need to address her with respect, as she is friends with all the guild workers. Eureka heard about them, that 2 people with amazing magical powers just registered in the guild. Since she had already been helped by such an amazing power, she immediately realized that it was Eisen and Rin. Eureka then continues to question Eisen and Rin. She heard that they became adventurers. Eisen and Rin are surprised but confirm her words. Eureka then invites Eisen and Rin to visit her shop nearby in the Alchemist's Garden. She explains the store's selection, and she is sure that Eisen and Rin will be able to find something for themselves. Eisen would love to see the shop, but they need to find an inn before they run out of room. Eureka interrupts and says that her shop is also an inn, so she invites Eisen and Rin to stay with them. Eureka points to a location on the map and says that this is where the Alchemist's Garden is. Eisen agrees, saying that it is a good place. Eureka says that she will pay for their stay, to which Eisen replies that they can pay for it themselves. Eureka interrupts and says that everything is fine. Since they helped find the key, which is very important to her, she decides to pay for the stay herself. Eisen and Rin agree and accept the offer to stay at Eureka's inn. Rin is also happy to follow her teacher and will like any inn. Eureka confirms their words and says that their company will welcome them with everything they have. A few minutes walk from the guild, Eureka points to a building, saying that this is their store. Eisen is surprised and admires. Eisen is surprised, talking about a large building with many windows and brickwork. Eureka says that this is the largest store in the city. The entrance has the name of the shop, the Alchemist's Garden, in a golden frame. Entering, they are met by a concierge who greets Eureka, who is the president here. He asks about her health and is surprised by her imminent return. Eureka says that she met someone. Eisen and Rin look at each other. Eisen is surprised by the position of the president, to which Eureka says that she did not tell them. Eureka is the president of the alchemy company Garden of Alchemists. She also introduces herself as Eureka Griffin. The ceiling of the hall of this store has large chandeliers that illuminate each of the tables. At one of these tables, Eisen and Rin are sitting on a sofa. The concierges are talking among themselves and discussing the spirit mage who helped the president. One of them notes that the spirit mage is a newbie and says that there was a rumor that 2 amazing people came to the guild. One of the concierges notices the president's strength as well as her slight carelessness. He is also curious about how exactly the spirit mage helped Eureka. He is also interested in the rumors about the spirit mage. Eisen looks at them and reacts silently. Rin notices that this situation is becoming similar to the one in the guild. Eisen confirms her words and says that he is amazed at how quickly rumors spread. After a while, Eureka comes to them with an older man who is dressed in a tailcoat and has a monocle on his eye. She says that the room will soon be ready and asks Eisen to talk to her. Eisen immediately agrees to talk. Addressing Eureka as the president of this shop, he asks why someone like her would be outside the city walls. Eureka explains that she was looking for special herbs for negotiations. She then says that the herbs growing there are used for potions, so she decided to assemble it alone to prove that she can do it herself. Eisen understands the situation. An older man approaches Eureka. He apologizes for disturbing her and thanks her for her help. Eureka calms the man down with a smile and says that she decided to do this herself. And besides, it was she who lost the key to the magic warehouse. Eureka continues to say that if he wants to thank someone, he can thank them, pointing to Eisen and Rinna. The older man is surprised by what was said. Then he thanks Eisen and Rin for helping to save the company's negotiations. These negotiations are very important for the future of their company. Eisen says that his help was only in finding the key and that there is no need for such gratitude. Eureka laughs at Eisen's words, to which he and Rin are perplexed. Eureka apologizes and says that a strange thought came to her mind. She says that Eisen is similar to the person who taught her. They have similar energy. Eisen asks Eureka again. Eureka confirms Eisen's words and says that she should call this person a master, since she said that Eureka should do everything she can, regardless of her position in the company. Eureka says that one of the 100 heroes taught her this. This hero girl became the president of the university. Rin is surprised that Eureka's teacher is one of the 100 heroes. Eureka confirms her words and says that the president of the Magic University is named Kunamiya Mel. Eisen recalls that the sorceress Mel was an energetic girl. He then turns to Eureka, who was her student. Eureka says that instead of attending the main school in the capital, she attended a branch school that was much closer to her. Eureka's teacher did not stay in the capital, but constantly traveled to different places. For the last few years, she taught at a university near the city. At this time, in the southern branch of the Magic University in Sagittal, in the president's room, a conversation is taking place. A young boy approaches her, who brings her the guild's report for this week. Mrs. Mel thanks the boy and says that she will now look at this report, while holding some book in her hands. With the help of magic, she begins to control her hair, thereby taking the book from the boy and bringing it to herself. The boy says that there is a man who wants to meet Mel, who looks suspicious because his face is hidden by a magic mask. Miss Mel says she knows him and asks the boy to let him in. A loud slam of a foot is heard on the floor. A man in a cape with a very sinister look enters the room. Mel recognizes the man, calling him by the name of Duke. Duke takes off his mask and says that he worked nearby, so he decided to come visit. Duke wants to tell something about the teacher Eisen. The cherished wish of all Eisen's students will be fulfilled. Duke says that they have been doing daily fortune telling lately, and recently learned that a powerful prophet will appear in this world. Mel, exclaiming and surprised, thinks about the return of teacher Eisen, but Duke upsets her, saying that he is not sure that it is really teacher Eisen. He also says that he does not know when his return will happen. They do not know the details. Mel is upset, saying that Duke's precision reminds her of the master's level of precision. But be that as it may, those people who have the ability of a prophet are invaluable people. Duke says that they gave special instructions to the guild, so they are preparing to meet the teacher. Mel says that she needs to finish her work so that she can greet teacher Eisen. Looking out the window, Duke starts talking about the job. He heard that Mel is a teacher for the Global Guild in Pioneer City. She confirms his words and says that being a teacher is quite difficult, but at the same time fun. She has a weekly report on how many specialists of each rank have appeared in the City Guild. Duke can check each occupation and rank. She says that this season has a pretty good rank performance. This rank season has a lot of D and a few E ranks. Duke is pleased with the fact that more and more people are willing to work for the good of the capital. Mel confirms his words, but there is also bad news. The fact is that over the past few months, the number of monsters around the city has increased. Mel says that they have a lot of guys with high physical strength, but they have few mages. Duke thinks about Mel's words. He then says that this whole situation could lead to a decrease in public safety. He also gives Mel a task to return to the capital. She should consider sending professional mages on this mission. Mel approaches Duke, after which he suggests sending him a report in letters. Duke would like to write a letter to teacher Eisen. Mel understands his feelings, but then says that it would be much better if Eisen himself came to this place. Sometime later at dawn, Eisen notices something strange. He looks at Rin and thinks that Rin usually gets up much earlier. At this moment, Rin is fast asleep on the bed, hugging the blanket to her body. She has a very sweet dream about her teacher. She mumbles in her sleep that she is warm. Eisen silently looks at the beautiful sleeping Rin and lets her sleep a little more. After a while, Rin wakes up from her sleep. She yawns, wiping away small tears from her sweet sleep. Eisen greets her with a smile. At this moment, Eisen was sitting at the table in the bedroom. Rin was still recovering from her sleep, and after some time she apologized for oversleeping. Eisen says that she shouldn't apologize to him. Approaching Eisen, Rin denies the teacher's words. As Eisen's student, she should take care of him, but in the end, she let herself go. Eisen says that she shouldn't blame herself, to which Rin replies that after reading the letters, Eisen will understand how much the students worry about him. Eisen says that Rin was very tired from yesterday, and that her biological clock was very messed up from traveling all over the world. Rin answers and turns to Eisen and says that he travels using magic power. Rin says decisively that she will get up at the same time as the teacher tomorrow. She notices the teacher's great endurance and therefore wants to adapt to it. Eisen muses about gaining physical strength and that Rin will be able to do everything possible with it. The teacher notes that Rin is fully awake. Eisen invites Rin to go for a walk around the city after breakfast. Rin immediately agrees and in return offers to go on their little trip. Eisen laughs and confirms Rin's words. They will go sightseeing in the town of Sagittale together. After a while, Eisen and Rin go out into the city. They find themselves on a street with stalls. The chatter of sellers and buyers can be heard around. Eisen approaches one of the material stalls and looks at it all thoughtfully. At this time, Rin approaches a flower stall and admires the beauty of the various flowers. Then Rin notices a counter with natural juice. She turns to the teacher and says that this is juice from special fruits of Pioneer City. After buying, Eisen and Rin taste the purchased drinks. They both admire the incredible taste of freshly squeezed natural juice. Eisen and Rin continue walking around the city. They visit the stables where Rin frolics with the horses. They also visit the main statue in the city. The sun is bright and warm in the sky. After a while, they climb up to the roof of the alchemist's garden shop. Rin admires the beauty of the city from the rooftop. Eisen confirms Rin's words and says that it is peaceful and the scenery is impressive. Rin is glad that Eureka opened the roof for them. Eisen looks at the hall and says that the Magic University should be visible there. Rin asks Eisen about the Magic University again and clarifies that Mrs. Mel is there. Eisen says that Mel is a great sorceress and that he wants to introduce Rin to her. She is surprised and then happy about the offer. Eisen says that good connections never hurt. Rin, after Eisen's insistence, agrees to meet. She would be glad to meet and get to know her. Suddenly, Eisen's attention is drawn to a sound. The sound is the gong of a bell. Rin says that the bell of the Global Guild announces the arrival of midday. She learned this from one of the letters. Looking at his pocket watch, Eisen realizes that traveling around the city takes too much time. Eisen offers Rin to have lunch at the guild, which she agrees to. She also says that there are some dishes that are served exclusively at the guild. Entering the guild's dining room, they are served steak, sliced with a side dish of baked potatoes with vegetables. There is also a tomato and cabbage salad nearby. Eisen says that the meat and vegetables were simply wonderful and clarifies that the description of the dish's taste was accurate, as in the letter. Rin says that in one of Mel's letters it was written that there is fertile land nearby on which there is a farm. Eisen is very glad that he came to this city and says that this is the best part of the trip. A voice is heard from behind, greeting Eisen and his student. It was Keisha. She is glad that they are still in the city. Eisen asks if she is the guild registrar. Keisha confirms his words and is glad that they came here. Then she asks for help from Eisen and Rin. They listen to her warily. Keisha explains that a wind spirit is making noise in the farmland and that their powers are not enough to fight it. She then says that only a spirit mage can deal with the spirit. She explains why she and they need Eisen's help. He says it's an emergency and they must act without delay. Keisha explains that farmland and gardens will be destroyed by the wind spirit and innocent people may also suffer. She adds that there are no casualties among the population yet, but everything can change. Eisen thinks and ponders her words. He thinks that all the students at the Magic University are very talented and it would be bad if something happened to them. He says that they will definitely help. Keisha exclaims happily and says that this request is specifically for C rank. Eisen will try his best to the best of his ability. Rin is going to help the teacher. Keisha, walking up the stairs to the second floor, thanks Eisen and Rin. She then asks them to follow her. She says that she will introduce them to a person who will explain everything to them. They go up to the second floor and enter the reception area. There they are met by Dominic, who immediately recognizes Eisen and Rin. Eisen greets Dominic. Dominic says that it is a great honor to work with them. As they pass, they enter the room. At this moment, Keisha closes the door with a creak. Eisen says that his skill allows him to communicate with spirits and asks Dominic to take care of them. Dominic confirms Eisen's words and hopes that everything will work out for them. Dominic thinks that this is not a very pleasant task. Eisen chuckles a little and asks Keisha if she can tell him the details. Keisha, holding a map in her hands, says that now she will tell everything. Having laid out the map, she points to the place and says that the forest is between the farm and the orchard. She says that they need to make a thing similar to the spirit of the wind, then he will rest. Rin says that they can use anything. Keisha confirms her words and hopes that Eisen and his companion will be able to help them. She also warns that the enemy is strong. Keisha says that they know that a tornado appears in the forest, but they cannot see the spirit itself. They do not know its class. Eisen is puzzled and asks how the situation became so dangerous. There must be a reason why the spirit went berserk. Keisha confirms Eisen's thoughts and says that spirits do not start behaving like this out of nowhere. However, when they asked the scouts, they said that everything started suddenly. Eisen thinks that the spirit got angry for some unknown reason. Keisha says their goal is to calm the spirit. They also need to find out the reason for his anger. She says they will definitely pay for the information they receive. Eisen asks Keisha about her words. Dominic says that the difficulty of such a task is at least D rank. Rin is surprised by his words. Keisha confirms Dominic's words and says that the spirit, which is not affected by physical attacks, has gone berserk for some unknown reason. She adds that there are many reasons why this is a D-rank quest. Dominic says that since it is a D-rank quest, the difficulty will only increase. He was sent to do this quest because he has been working as a spirit mage for 10 years. He still thinks that this job will be difficult. Dominic is surprised by Eisen and Rin's calm. They look quite calm. He thinks that it might be because of their C rank. Unlike them, Dominic has a sense of excitement. Eisen and Rin look at Dominique's reasoning, who in turn explains that for someone who was rated C rank and sent on a D rank mission, it's like becoming a Tengu who exudes arrogance. Dominique says that Eisen is not an insolent, promising newbie, which is why he's a pleasure to work with. Eisen is glad that Dominic thinks so of him and they all set off on the mission. Everyone agrees and gets ready to go. Keisha says that there are regeneration potions in the guild and asks the team to be careful. Leaving the city limits, they walk along a stone path, looking around along the way. Looking around, Eisen notices a tornado. Rin is surprised by the impressive size of the tornado. The tornado sweeps away everything in its path. Strong wind currents are felt near the team. Eisen says it's a small storm, not a tornado. They know there's a spirit in the center of a tornado. Because of the wide impact, they'll have to go around it. Dominic will lead them. He summons a magical spirit that begins to eat the magic ball. It rises up and creates a dome around the team, protecting them from the wind. Dominic has secured the team and asks them to follow him. But before they begin, Eisen casts some kind of spell. Dominic asks about Eisen's protective magic. He just used it. They continue walking towards the tornado. Because of the sphere, debris and rubble are not visible to the team. Dominic is glad he was able to help them. Eisen warns the team to be careful. Eisen asks Dominic to sit down, to which he asks why he needs that. Eisen, thanks to the stone spirit, predicted the stake flying over Dominic's head. The stake pierces the dome, which almost sent Dominic to the other world. Dominic is interested in Eisen's skill. Eisen simply hears the voice of the spirits around him. Eisen can hear the voices of the spirits even through the wind. Eisen says that it is quite comfortable, to which Dominic is amazed and surprised. Dominic is fine, it is just that Eisen managed to surprise him. Dominic gets up and they continue walking. The wind bends the tree trunks. Dominic points at something and says that now they will be able to see it. There is an egg-like object floating in the center. It is the spirit that caused the tornado. Dominic cannot tell its level until he gets closer. This egg begins to open up little by little. It opens with a crack. The team does not understand what is happening. Inside the egg, the silhouette of an elven girl is visible. Dominic says that it is most likely an elder spirit, as it can take human form. The girl inside the egg opens her eyes. This spirit is completely released, and a spirit girl with long ears appears in front of them. Dominic says that many spirits can change their appearance, after which they go into hibernation. The scouts were unable to determine the level of the spirit. It is said that elder spirits live in secluded places, and in order to challenge him, they must be at least B rank. Dominic says that C rank mages cannot handle such a spirit, but there is one but. Dominic, as a professional, must help Eisen and Rinna survive. The spirit begins to approach the team. The enemy does not look hostile, but Dominic still strengthens his defense. The spirit raises his index finger, thus beginning his attack. Dominic is taken aback by the attack that is beginning. Dominic watches as the spirit's attack sweeps away everything in its path. Dominic is thrown back by the shockwave. The shockwave carries Dominic upward. Dominic hits his back against a standing tree. It was a magical blow of wind. Dominic was saved by a small sphere that enveloped him. He worries about the safety of the newcomers. Dominic was the only victim. He decides to be the bait to save the newbies. Dominic's body was paralyzed. He could not move. The spirit was preparing for a new attack. Dominic realizes that Eisen will be the next to take the hit. He asks him to run away. Eisen asks him not to worry about him. He begins to cast a spell. The spirit makes a new attack. The shockwave moves towards Eisen. He swings his staff. He cuts the shockwave in half. Eisen holds a staff in his hands that glows with sparks. Dominic looks at Eisen in surprise. Eisen asks about Dominic's health. Dominic says he is fine. He also does not understand how Eisen counterattacked the spirit's attack. Eisen says he used a little magic. Eisen used prophecy magic to transform his staff into something that could cut through a powerful shockwave with a single blow. This was followed by another shockwave. The spirit is very surprised and asks many questions. Eisen suggests the spirit to continue in the same spirit. Surprised, the spirit continues to attack. Wave after wave, Eisen cuts through each one. He swings his staff, which instantly cuts through the wave. With a serious look, he cuts through the last shockwave. Debris and shards of earth fly in all directions. Some of them fly at Rin, who instantly cuts them into pieces. She was protecting Dominic, who is amazed by what he sees. Dominic is surprised that Rin is used to fighting in close combat. Rin confirms his words and is amazed by the master's skill. Dominique can no longer do anything against the spirit. Their attacks will be useless against such a strong spirit, as only A-rank adventurers can fight her equally. Eisen says that they should not fight her. Dominic doesn't understand and says that Eisen really wants to talk to her and says that it's too risky. He warns Eisen that the situation could become much more serious if he accidentally offends her. Eisen will figure it all out, or at least try to figure it out. He gradually approaches the hovering spirit. He greets her and wants to talk to her. The spirit gradually descends lower. She looks at him in surprise. She rubs her eyes. The spirit points its finger at Eisen. He confirms his thoughts about the intelligence of the spirit. The spirit has consciousness because her eyes show that she is intelligent. This spirit looks at Eisen with an evil look. At this point, Rin and Dominic approach Eisen from behind. Dominic thinks that the spirit is upset, and just in case, he can distract the spirit so that the newcomers can escape. The spirit says that human language irritates her. She will not answer unless Eisen speaks to her in the language of spirits. She recognizes Eisen as a prophet. Eisen confirms her words. The spirit turns out to be a big fan of Eisen. He doesn't understand how she knows him. She says that Eisen is popular in the spirit world. He can't believe it. The spirit says that he is a hero and many love him. Her mentor is a relative of the departed Emperor of Spirits. The mentor constantly took care of the other spirits. Eisen has never heard anything like this. He confirms that he defeated the evil gods but did not become a hero to the spirits. Eisen was in another universe, not the spirit world. The spirit was half asleep and did not immediately notice Eisen. He compares her to a cat. Dominic asks about the situation, to which Eisen tells him not to worry and asks to give them a little more time. The tornado continues to act. The spirit heard that the language of spirits is difficult, but Eisen speaks it easily. The spirit speaks the prophet's job is to use this language, and he is quite good at it. Eisen does not understand why the spirit creates such a strong wind. The spirit does not understand what wind is being talked about, since this breeze is only warning people. Eisen says that for her it may be a simple breeze, but for people it is a strong hurricane. Eisen speculates that the perception of reality differs among different spirit races. If a spirit wanted to attack him, it would have done so long ago. He does not understand why the spirit needed to warn people. The spirit says that there are demonic beasts in the forest that spread miasma. She goes on to say that miasma is a special magical power that strengthens demons. It is because of this miasma that the evil god changed his body. Thus he scattered his flesh all over the world. The spirit asks Eisen if he knows of other places full of miasma. He confirms her words and says that some demonic beasts ate these pieces of flesh. The spirit understands everything. After eating a piece of God's flesh, an organ is created in their bodies that produces miasma. The spirit was given the task of protecting the population from demonic beasts, so she created a light breeze. Eisen understands the appearance of the tornado. He asks the spirit to tell him all the details about the demonic beast. This beast looks like a mole with a big horn. It also has long claws. It is called the horned mole. It is not strong and usually hides underground. Since the spirit is not very accurate in attacks, she cannot defeat it. If it is defeated, the miasma will disappear. Dominic is surprised that Eisen can speak with a higher spirit. He doesn't know what they're talking about and confides in Eisen. The spirit grabs his forehead, which causes Dominic to worry. At this point, the spirit says that she is tired of sending attacks that are useless, so she decided to take a break. Eisen understood why she is walking around here. Rin calms Dominic down and asks him to rest, entrusting the work to Eisen. The tornado is still raging. Eisen asks the spirit to remove the hurricane, then he will deal with the magical beast. Eisen's help, he says that his help will help both people and spirits. The spirit says that if he can't defeat the beast, she will create a hurricane again. Eisen agrees and begins to work. The spirit will definitely thank him when he does the job. She flies up and says that she would like to chat with Eisen some more, then she says goodbye and flies into the sky. The hurricane disappears along the way. Dominic is disconcerted. He has never seen such a strong spirit. The spirit disappears into the sky. Dominic admires Eisen for making the spirit leave simply by talking to her. Eisen says that he did not drive her away. The Supreme Spirit gave them a task. He then explains to them what happened. Rin and Dominic listen attentively to Eisen's story. Dominic thought wrongly about the spirit. Eisen says that the storm was indeed a threat. Dominic feels better at his words. Dominic says that their opponent is a D rank, to which Eisen laughs, saying that beasts are also divided into ranks. All demonic beasts are strong in their own way. This mole is a D rank. Eisen and Rin are both C rank, so this is a worthy opponent for them. Dominic offers his help. Eisen says that he was the one who took the task from the spirit. Dominic wants to be a little useful since he previously left all the work to Eisen. Something is bothering Rin. She looks carefully towards the forest. Eisen says that there is no need to look for the animals because they are already here. Rin gets into a fighting stance and confirms Eisen's words. A large horned peer appears deep in the forest. Next to him, other horned moles crawl out from under the ground. Eisen and Dominic notice the horned moles in the back of the boss. They are already heading towards them. Dominic rushes to fight, as some of them are C rank and he is confident that he can handle them. He is stopped by Eisen. Dominic does not understand his actions and says that the higher spirit can create a hurricane again. Eisen confirms his words. The team is standing in the middle of an open area surrounded by forest. Eisen says that there are many more animals here. Then he starts to knock his staff on the ground. Dominic doesn't understand anything. Claws appear from under the ground and then horned moles appear. There are at least 20 of them. Eisen suggests that they multiplied due to the miasma. The miasma actually speeds up the reproduction process, so the team will have to fight 20 C-rank beasts. Dominic suggests that they take out the boss. If they do that, the rest of the monsters will be put to rest. That would be a good idea. Gradually, the horned moles head towards the team. Dealing with the boss seems like an impossible mission. The team does not seem like a threat to the beasts, so they go without hesitation. Dominic says that these animals are very strong. They are gradually moving towards the team. Eisen asks Dominic and Rin to get ready. The beasts begin to advance. The team awaits the attack. Dominic does not understand how Eisen was able to find out their movements. She begins to gather magic above her palm, after which she uses the Spirit Light Bullet spell. Several bullets hit one of the animals. The other animals dodge and run in different directions. One of them stops and attacks Dominic with a roar. Eisen saves Dominic and inquires about his health, after which Dominic notices that another beast is attacking Eisen from behind. A couple of swings of the blades and the enemy is defeated thanks to Rin, for which Eisen thanks her. Rin knew that Eisen could handle it alone. He thanks her for her help. She likes the serious teacher. Dominic is interested in Rin's close combat. She knows how to fight more or less. She asks to leave the horned mauls to her. In the end, it was not necessary. The boss is very wary. He starts digging the ground. In fact, the boss is ordering the moles to flee by creating vibrations. Eisen must get rid of them before they escape. He begins to cast a spell. This spell is called Wind Blade. A second later, the blade cuts through the animals and trees, as well as the boss. Dominic is surprised. He has never seen such strong magic. All the cut trees fall with a crash. The carcasses of animals are also visible. The source of the miasma is completely destroyed. This spell is much stronger than the tornado of the Supreme Spirit. Dominic is interested in this technique. Eisen says he came up with it a long time ago. People learned the basic techniques of magic from prophets. There were also special books. When Eisen tried to use the skills, he was helped by an inner voice that taught him everything. Dominic understood everything and said that Eisen was an incredible person, since even an A-rank professional could not repeat this. Eisen had enough time to prepare. A man shouts at them. The whole team turns towards the sound. It was a man who was tired from the journey. He thanks them for saving the farm. It was the man who reported the monsters to the guild. He turned to two places for help at once. The man is glad to see them here. Dominic faints and falls. Eisen inquires about his health. Dominic used too much magic in the battle. The degree of fatigue varies from person to person. The man offers to have lunch with special vegetables. These vegetables can restore magical power. The team agrees with the man. The man's house is nearby. It was a wooden house with a fence. Entering the house, the man thanks the team with a delicious meal. Eisen was thanked for the first time as an adventurer. Dominic will return to the guild first to report. He quickly reports for them. Eisen and Rin are in no hurry to leave because the sun is still high. After some time, they leave the house. The restorative effect of vegetables is quite high. Eisen remembers that his student owns a farm and improves crops with magic. The seeds of the harvest are distributed among several farmers. Their research, cultivation, and distribution is carried out by each company. Eisen is looking forward to the next mission. Rin notices the glow of the book in the staff. The book is reacting to something. Rin notices Eisen's thoughts. The grass rustles by the path. Eisen left part of the page somewhere nearby. Eisen points his staff at a stone in the grass. The book begins to glow brighter. It is in that stone. The stone begins to glow too. Eisen is lucky today as a page appears above the stone. The inscriptions appear on the page. The page immediately enters the book. Eisen never thought he would find part of his power in such a place. Rin is interested in the skill she received. It is the skill of expanding the range of prophecies. The scope of the prophecies has been expanded. Rin is eager to see Eisen in all his glory. It is time for Eisen and Rin to return. After some time they return to the guild. They are met by Keisha. A crowd of people immediately surrounds them. Next, Dominic greets them. Dominic just reported the results of the request. Keisha is worried about the team. Eisen and Rin say they are in perfect health. Keisha is very happy about the safe return of the team. Eisen does not understand what is happening around him. The guild received reports from the Magic University. They said that demonic beasts were in the area. The guild and the city's magical university have been cooperating for many years, providing information on magic and the latest magical tools available only at the university. The difficulty of the team's task was described as much higher than B rank. The spirit was also described as the highest. The entire guild was excited as there were only 3 people in the team. Dominic left everyone confused when he returned alone. Eisen clarifies the information. The crowd watches in delight. Keisha says that Eisen calmed the higher spirit and stopped the tornado. Eisen confirms her words. The whole crowd admires. Eisen muses that anyone would have been able to tell that the spirit was not angry. Keisha admires Eisen for completing the task. He completed a task that was higher than C rank. Dominic's entire report is true, as the guild has a detective profession. Eisen was appreciated for his difficult work, although it did not seem that way to him. At this point, Keisha finished her explanation and began to apologize for such a task. Eisen tells her not to apologize. He only wanted to fulfill the request. Eisen's words calmed Keisha down. She says they will have to wait a little while for the reward as the reward has increased. Keisha can't give anything special, so she just increased the reward. Eisen is surprised by the increased reward. Dominic says that he reported everything he saw and nothing more. Eisen is even more grateful to them for the reward. The compensation fee is 15,000 gold for 3 people. With 10,000, you can live in the inn for about a month. As a result, the total amount was increased 10 times, as Dominic told about the work done earlier. Eisen is surprised by such a large amount. Dominic says that it is still not enough. Keisha continues that working with the higher spirit is very expensive, and they feel awkward giving such a small amount now. Eisen is happy to accept even that much money. Dominic refuses to share the reward since he only brought them to the right place. If Eisen doesn't accept the reward, all the money will remain with the guild. Eisen will gladly take it all. He also wants to treat Dominic to something. Dominic agrees to this offer. Eisen throws a party to celebrate the first completed mission. It's getting dark outside. After a while, night falls. After some time, morning comes. A new day also begins in the southern branch of the Magic University. Climbing the stairs and entering the room, Eureka brings the guild's report to President Mel. Mel greets Eureka. Since Eureka is not a student, she cannot just meet Mel. Eureka will visit her in the future when she has time. Eureka has good connections in the guild, which is beneficial to Mel and Eureka. Eureka compliments Mel's hair, to which she thanks her. She can only allow her hair to be touched on special occasions and only by precious people. Eureka is interested in Mel's precious people. Mel's hair contains magical power. She can only allow those she recognizes to touch her hair. There is a blessing in that hair. No one has ever touched Mel's hair before. Mel completely agrees with Eureka's words. Mel tells Eureka to train hard so she can touch her hair. She is further surprised by the report of the simultaneous appearance of miasma and spirit. She is curious to know what happened there. The request said there were spirits and monsters there. The cooperation between the city and the guild has not yet been completed. Eureka says that not all people have adapted to the system that Mel and hundreds of heroes created. Eureka says that the things Mel created are very useful. Mel says that many things were done in the past. It was back when Mel was an apprentice to the Master of Heroes. Mel learned a lot from him. Eureka would really like to meet Mel's teacher. Mel also really wants to meet him. Mel concentrates on her work. She is surprised by the report. The report says that someone of C rank has defeated the demonic beast and exorcised the high spirit. Mel can't believe it, since only she and the head of security can easily exorcise the high spirit. Eureka says that terrible spirits and wizards have appeared in the area. Mel ponders over the man who defeated the supreme spirit. Mel wants to meet this man and wants to go to the city as soon as possible. Also, the number of demonic beasts increases due to miasma. Eureka says that the amount of alchemical materials has decreased dramatically and the hunger of the horned moles has increased. The horned moles also eat the food of other monsters. Therefore, the demonic beasts begin to look for food. Mel says that the demonic beasts will target people with magical powers. She should be careful. Mel and Eureka ponder the effectiveness of the messaging between the town and the school. A few days later, Eisen and Rin are just walking around the city, taking in the sights. It turns out to be a real adventure for them. They are attacked by a demonic monster. Eisen lifts small rocks into the air and shoots them at the monster. They can easily deal with this monster. Then they sell the magic stones to an alchemy company. They had a busy day. Sometime later, one morning in the alchemy garden, Eisen and Rin were thinking about the places they had seen. Eisen suggests leaving the city today. He wants to go south. He then asks Rin where she wants to go, to which she replies that she will go where the teacher goes. On the way, Eisen wants to drop by Mel's university. Eisen is always worried about someone. Rin is often asked about this. She always tells them that it is the nature of a teacher. Eisen would like to get along with all the people of the city. They are going to greet Eureka as they are leaving soon. They approach the reception desk. They are asked to wait as they want to sign a contract with them. Eisen and Rin want to drink another cup of tea. The tea was steaming. Suddenly, a man in a tailcoat disturbs them. The man introduces himself as Eureka's secretary and says that Eureka is currently on her way to the Magic University and that she will return tomorrow. He apologizes. The secretary can accompany the team to the university since he himself needs to go there. Eisen and Rin agree. Eisen asks the secretary again, which he will be only too happy to help them with. A carriage was already waiting for them outside. It would take less than an hour to get to the university. Eisen was grateful for the quick preparation of the carriage. At this time at the university, the girls from the broadcasting department come to Mel. The magic speaker's setting is perfect. The girls did everything faster than Mel expected. The girl says that more than 30 people have already gathered in the auditorium. Mel is as popular as she was in her student days. Mel is very happy about it. Suddenly, Mel is distracted by a report from the guard tower. The captain of the university guard is waiting for her. They have noticed strange magical fluctuations. They cannot find out the details. Mel looks at the window and wants to check the situation herself. The captain decides to go to the guard. Mel opens the window. She doesn't notice any deviations but still decides to check. She takes the staff and goes to the window. She casts a detect magic and threat spell. She launches a magic ball, which flies out of the window and flies in a southerly direction. They will immediately notice deviations if it is magic. Eureka has never seen a magic detector. She is amazed by Mel's power. Mel can use this spell as a normal skill. Eureka continues to admire Mel's power. In the end, she didn't succeed. At this time, traces of some monster are visible in the field. These traces continue to go. A strange figure is visible in the glare of the sun. The magic did not stop and flew over the field near the university. And Mel, continuing to stand at the window and watch, told Eureka that even if she said so, the range of detection magic was enormous. Eureka excitedly asked if the master of the university president Mel was really a prophet. Rose replied that in the normal detection ability, her master was better than her. Mel Rose, closing her eyes and holding her staff, responded in agreement. Because after all, her teacher was able to hear the voices of everything around him, as if he had eyes everywhere. Eureka noted that he was some kind of amazing spiritualist, able to communicate with the earth and even plants. Mel explained that no matter how brilliant a spiritualist was, he could not communicate with the spirits of the earth or plants that he could not see. As the girl's background detection magic flew past the illusion, Eureka asked in surprise that even in an open field like the one on the outskirts of the pioneer town, they were unable to see or talk to the lower-class spirits. Mel smiled and replied that it was true, because it was usually impossible. Besides, weak spirits were not even able to speak any language, so even those of the 100 heroes who could speak the language of spirits were not free to do something like that. Then the girls looked out the window again, and Mel continued to say that, nevertheless, it was entirely possible for a prophet to become a professional in talking to spirits. Eureka nodded and replied that she understood everything, and then asked what about this man then. But Mel's attention was drawn to a strange illusion on the field, and leaving Eureka without an answer, she looked out the window. Curious to understand what had caused this reaction, she realized that the detect magic spell had detected something. In the background, she could see the silhouette of a monster, its lights flickering. The figure continued to walk towards the academy, and Mel asked if Eureka saw what she saw. Eureka nodded and asked if it was a magical reaction. Suddenly, the illusion magic faded, and a monster appeared before the girl's eyes in the middle of the field. The president of the University of Magic, Mel, immediately identified the monster, exclaiming that it was an ogre titan. Eureka looked at her mentor in surprise and asked again about the ogre titan, and then clarified that she meant the Class A demonic beast, the one with powerful regeneration and physical abilities. Mel was thinking at this moment that even though it was just detection data, it was at least 4 meters tall. Even though the watchtower had missed it, it really did have an overly large body. She thought he had initially hidden his body and moved closer, but she wondered what kind of magic he had used. His still invisible feet were leaving marks on the grass, bending under the weight. This gave Mel an idea, and she screamed that he was using invisibility magic. But Eureka said that such a thing was the power of an evil god, magic that allows the user to pass by unnoticed. Mel confirmed her words and added that it was a nasty magic that could not be detected without a combination of detection and perception magic. Rose knew that according to research, ogre titans are only capable of earth-type magic, but this ogre uses invisibility, which is unnatural for them, and then said that he somehow learned it. Miasma does more than just increase the beast's strength. She added that when monsters eat the flesh of an evil god, the miasma inside eventually mixes with their bodies, and some of them eventually evolve to gain the magic or abilities of the evil god. The ogre titan raised his hand, shrouded in dark magic. Mel, standing by the window, thought that he had cancelled his invisibility, meaning he knew that he had already been detected by their magic, and noted that he was an intelligent demonic beast. Then she shuddered and thought that this ogre was a titan. Maybe he had learned other spells from the flesh of the evil god. At that moment, the dark magic around his raised hand summoned a pile of shattered crystals above his head. He uses the evil crystal cannon. The rocks crashed and broke through the walls of the university with a roar, and one of the fragments hit the window where the girls were, forcing them to jump out. Eureka, clearing her throat, asked President Mel if she was okay. Mel responded in the affirmative and asked in return. After all, they had jumped from a rather high place. The alchemist also responded that she was okay, her leg just hurt a little. Mel thought that luckily this was her personal lab, so very few people were allowed in. Besides, she had activated magic that would let her know when someone entered. Wondering if other buildings were damaged, a female knight called out to her, asking how the girl was feeling. Mel replied that everything was fine and asked if she was aware of the current situation. The knight girl nodded and said that she had already informed the guards of each sector. Mel Rose asked again about the 2 buildings and whether she meant that one, but they cried out that the assembly hall near the center had been destroyed. Mel asked in shock if the students were safe, thinking about their smiling faces. But the knight girl reassured that thanks to the protective magic Mel had cast on the buildings, no one was hurt by the explosion. Students who failed to escape were trapped under the rubble. Mel sighed in relief and noted that this was good news. To ensure the protection of all students, spells had been placed on all buildings of the university. They act as a shield in case of emergencies, absorbing impact if a student collides with them. And when children are trapped under rubble, the spells create cover to help them survive. She planted magic in the buildings, building them with the help of architects. Mel noted that if she didn't make a move now, it would become dangerous, because he was going to eat them. The knight girl noticed and asked if it was an ogre titan clad in miasma. Mel nodded and said that it had evolved, so it could now use the magic of an evil god. The girl knight took the device and asked the president how they should act, and that she was already ready to convey her orders to all employees. The device in her hands is a magical short-range communication item. As long as they are inside the university, they can use it to communicate. Mel ordered all rank and file personnel that they were responsible for rescuing and evacuating the students, and the guards that they would fight alongside her to attract the ogre titan's attention. She also added that they should convey the state of emergency to the city of pioneers, use magical signal fires or letters to contact powerful adventurers. Melrose, standing before the giant titan, addressed Eureka, while a night girl was nearby relaying orders through a device. The president looked over her shoulder and said that if she could help save the students, she would be very grateful. And she added that she could still use alchemical medicine depending on the situation. Eureka asked the president in surprise what she would do then. Eureka excitedly said that Mel didn't have enough people and she also wanted to fight. The president replied that she should use her abilities to save. And then she added that she wanted to prioritize the rescue operation, and they would be fine because the demonic beast would not defeat them so easily. Meanwhile, the night girl reported that the transmission was complete. An agitated Eureka, closing her eyes and lowering her head, said that she understood the president's decision. After which she ran towards the university and said that she would return immediately after the students were evacuated. However, ogre titans have strong regeneration, and only when the core in the heart is destroyed will it stop regenerating. The monster moved slowly, gathering more crystal fragments with dark magic behind its back. University soldiers ran out to meet it. The female knight shouted to the president that the security squad was ready for battle, drawing her sword from its sheath. Mel, holding her staff in front of her, said that they needed to buy some time, so the ogre titan would have to wait. At that moment, in the forest through which the carriage with the main character and his companion was passing, a rumble was heard from the direction of the university, which attracted their attention. Rin asked Eisen to look in one direction, which she pointed to with her gaze. She said that smoke was rising into the air from the place where the magic university was located. The wagon driver noticed and exclaimed that it was smoke signal magic and was surprised by the color of the smoke. Eisen asked the secretary what was going on and if there was any problem. The secretary explained that this smoke was a signal magic used in case of an emergency. In addition, that color was used when the guards at the university were unable to deal with a demonic beast. The man then stood up and turned to say that he wanted to ask the two of them if it was possible. He wanted to go to the university right away, and it would be wiser to turn back to ensure their safety. The secretary continued that this was why he wanted them to go to the university, to ensure the safety of the company president, and if possible, he wanted them to cooperate to solve the problem that had arisen there. The man bowed his head to the heroes and said that he wanted to save the president and the university where she left many dear trials, so he asks to lend the heroes his power. Eisen Otis smiled, seeing the man's honesty and thinking that he would have kept quiet and quietly taken them to the university, but he did not. After which the hero looked at Rin, and she told him with a smile that she felt the same way. The man raised his head after the hero asked him to do so and looked at Eisen, waiting for his answer, still worried. The hero replied that he and Rin would be happy to help him, because when a friend is in trouble, they will definitely cooperate. The man breathed a sigh of relief, was happy and sincerely thanked the hero and his companion. After which he tugged on the reins and said that then we need to hurry, so it will shake a little, for which he immediately apologizes. Eisen asked the secretary what the smoke meant, that if they were late, everything would be pointless. The man looked at him in surprise and replied that it was so. Eisen said that then they would leave first. He asked Rin if she was ready and she said no problem. She and the boy stood together on the moving cart. Then the boy said it would be faster if they walked from here. The man looked over his shoulder at them and asked what they were going to do. But at that moment, the heroes pushed off from the edge of the cart. The secretary, stunned by what was happening, did not understand what was happening when they jumped off the carriage moving at full speed. The protagonist then cast a spell in which he addressed the spirits of the air and asked them to gently support both of them. After which, Eisen and Rin overtook the cart, running on foot towards the university along the road. A loud wind shook the trees and accelerated the heroes. Eisen said that thanks to it they would get there quickly. Rin nodded. The astonished secretary noticed the rising wind and thought that they were riding a tailwind. The heroes continued to run. Rin noticed that the emergency situation at the university was still going on. Eisen replied that they had to hurry then. The secretary, seeing their backs, thought about how, despite the fact that they were the adventurers of the rearguard, they were faster than the crew and how this was possible. Meanwhile, Eureka helped the students evacuate, asking them to gather the wounded in a shelter at the school gates and then inform the staff where people remained under the rubble. Pioneer City, Branch Campus, Central Assembly Hall. A man shouted that it was a student and he was going to save him. Another man shouted that he had found one too. A man ran up to Eureka and said that he had found a register of students who were in the auditorium. The girl began to look through the document and flipped through it, finding out that there were 40 students in the hall. She looked at the injured student and thought that with the student they had just saved, they had already helped 37 people. That meant there were still 3 students under the rubble. She then looked back at the loud sound that had been made and resolutely began to walk through the rubble, thinking that the president was still fighting. She stood in the center of the ruins and shouted that if anyone was conscious, they should respond. As Eureka thought, no one responded. She began to wonder if they had lost consciousness or perhaps they were unable to scream due to their injuries, even if she tried to use magical detection to find them. Since there were so many people around, she wouldn't be able to tell the trapped ones apart from the rest. She walked over to the collapsed wooden beams and started to clear them away. She thought that there was no such thing as a heroic mage capable of such a thing. Eureka thought that as long as there were students who could not be saved, the president could not leave either. She kept looking towards the loud sounds of the battle, and thought that the president was not the best opponent for this demonic beast. The alchemist girl raked the bricks and beams with her hands, thinking about what she should do. She graduated from this university and created the best company in the city. She thought she had grown a little because of it. She closed her eyes and squeezed the wooden beam, asking out loud for help from anyone. However, she heard from the side that someone responded to her request and asked again that help was needed. After which she looked towards the one who spoke the words and saw Eisen, behind whom was Rin. He held his staff with one hand with a smile and said that they would help them by passing through the debris. Eureka recognized the guy and asked why Mr. Eisen was here. She couldn't believe her eyes. The hero answered her that he came to meet a friend at this university, but they had more urgent matters and asked if that was true. The girl nodded and thought that if it was him, then maybe he could help in their difficult situation. Then she said that she would explain the situation. Having started the explanation with the ogre titan who has the power of miasma, the guy interrupted her and said that everything was fine. After all, he had already learned about the situation by listening to what was happening around him. The girl was very surprised by these words and asked again, in what sense simply by listening. Eisen explained that he knew what needed to be done and would now save the students. With a smile on his face, Eisen closed his eyes and began to absorb the magic around him to find the remaining students. After that, he began to walk in a certain direction, and having reached it, said that one of the students was here. The young man cast a spell and called upon the spirit of the wind to lift the debris for him. Part of the destroyed assembly hall rose into the air, and the body of a wounded student was revealed underneath. He had a wound on his head which made him unconscious. Eisen said that they had found him, then he turned to Eureka and asked her to take care of him. The girl, surprised, agreed. Eisen looked back and walking to a new place said that here is the next one. He added that everything is about to collapse, so they will have to act carefully. He used the spell again and lifted up huge pieces of debris with magic, revealing a wounded girl underneath. Eureka was shocked to think that he had already found 2 students in such a short time. She hadn't seen any spirits here, so she didn't think he had used their power to find the students, so she asked him how he knew. The young man replied that he had already told her that he was hearing voices, as if someone was whispering to him that the children were down there, so help them. And then he explained that it was the voice of the building, which was built to protect the students. Eureka was very surprised and asked what he was saying, that he hears the voices of simple things. How is that possible? He asked if he hadn't spoken about that. And then he explained that in things that people create with care and love, there remain, albeit weak, some kind of emotions. Eisen cast the spell again and asked the wind spirit to make the area float in the air. The magic raised a huge amount of debris into the air. Eureka and the men helping the students were in shock. Before their eyes, the debris rose into the air and revealed the last wounded youth, unconscious. This student saw the silhouette of the protagonist and asked with difficulty if it was a god, because he looked extremely majestic. Eisen said with a smile that he was not a god and that he was here to save him, looking at the wounded boy. The student closed his eyes and with a relieved smile replied that he was glad, after which all the men nearby began to help him. Eureka commented that it was unbelievable. Finding them so easily was very difficult. She began to think about the ability to communicate with objects, that this ability was beyond the capabilities of a spirit mage. At that moment, Rin ran up to Eisen and said that she helped evacuate the students and that they were finished. The hero thanked Rin for her help and said that it was then time to move on to the next task. Eureka was surprised and clarified that by the next task he meant helping the president. Eisen looked at her with a smile and replied that everything was so, now it was his business. He had to go to his student Mel. On the other side of the magic university, one of the crystal fragments flew straight into the soldier's chest, piercing his armor and throwing him back. The girl knight shouted that the soldier's shield was broken and called for a medical team to quickly take care of him while other warriors fought behind her. The man in the metal helmet swung his sword and hit the ogre titan in the leg with all his might. The demonic beast sensed this and used his hand to push the soldier back and break his sword, greatly surprising him. The other soldiers at this moment surrounded the evolved ogre titan from all sides and attacked. The Night Girl told President Mel that, with the exception of her, all members of the magic squad had been defeated by the last attack. Only a few squads remained unharmed. Mel concluded that their strength was running out. The sword wound on his leg healed without a trace. The president, seeing this, noted that there was not a single scratch on the demonic beast's body. She said that it was a very unpleasant opponent because of its regeneration without taking her eyes off it. The demonic beast extended its hand and cast an evil ice blast spell towards the warriors. Crystal fragments flew at the president and the knight's girlfriend, to which the president responded with a combined fire spear spell. A large number of fire spears collided with the crystal fragments and shattered against each other. But there were more spears, and the remaining ones flew straight at the ogre titan. He took the blow in surprise, but continued to stand firmly on his feet and hold his hands with claws in front of him. He remained unharmed, after which he crouched down and with a deafening cry began to summon new crystal fragments. Mel thought they had only managed to make a small scratch on his forehead, but it was already healing. The battle could go on forever, but they were buying time to get the students to safety. The monster started running towards them, to which the Night Girl reacted and shouted that he was attacking, and the president replied that she could see it perfectly well. They ran in different directions, continuing to buy time. Mel looked at him and wanted to know who he was chasing. Crystal fragments flew over his shoulder towards her, and she immediately realized that he was using ice balls to close the distance between them. She used a spell in response and broke all the balls that were flying at her, but the demonic beast was a meter in front of her. He swung his hand. Mel began to think that he was preparing something, so she should increase the distance and jumped back. However, a club appeared in the demon's hand, and he cast a spell of an evil crystal club, which he used to hit the girl. She lost her hat and was thrown back, taking a direct hit. Blood started coming out of her mouth, and she realized that she was only okay because of the shield, and then she screamed that she could still continue. The monster was preparing for a new attack. Mel realized that she wouldn't be able to cast a shield in time, and that it looked like she would have to take this attack head-on. She then expressed hope that the students had managed to evacuate and began to reproach herself for not being able to protect everyone, even herself. She resigned herself, closed her eyes, and said that being president was really hard. However, a voice came through saying that she had done well. The shocked girl opened her eyes and saw a staff in front of her, which was stuck into the ground, and then a spell calling for the weapon to deploy protection. A barrier formed around the president, and all the crystal fragments shattered against it without causing any harm to the girl. Mel opened her eyes in surprise and looked at the reflected attack. A voice came from behind her again, telling her that she had done a wonderful job protecting the students until the very end. After which Eisen put his hand on her shoulder, smiled, and said that she should not behave like him, because she had already reached great heights. Melrose looked at the protagonist in front of her, who took the staff that served as her shield. After which he turned around and told the girl that it was so long ago, but she did very well. The guy helped her up by the shoulder. The president still didn't believe it, so she asked if it wasn't a hallucination because she didn't think it was him. The guy interrupted the girl and said that he was really here, asking if she believed it now. The night girl called out tensely to the president to see if she was okay. Mel calmly replied that she was okay. Eisen asked if the night girl was the squad leader and then said that he was leaving Mel to her. Then Rin came running and said that she was fully prepared to support. Eisen replied that in that case she would need to save the wounded and help with the evacuation. Rin nodded and said that she would take it on. However, besides that, Eureka was making medicine in the rear and she would protect everyone. Eisen knew that the girls would be doing the rescue and evacuation, and all he had to do was take care of the demonic beast. The evolved ogre titan prepared a new spell, and the young man walking towards him said that it was time to begin. Eisen thought that the staff was protecting him from the ice bullets he had fired earlier, and maybe he was preparing larger ones knowing this, which made him realize that it seemed to be a smart beast. At this point, the hero turned to the ogre titan and said that it had been a long time since he had a proper conversation with his student, so he apologized for asking the beast to get out of here. The young man came to the conclusion that the monster could not speak. The protagonist picked up his staff and realized that in that case he knew what he had to do. He assumed a fighting stance and, turning to the ogre titan again, said that he would teach him the word defeat. The night girl turned to the president, saying that it was too dangerous for that person to be there, as an adventurer mage shouldn't do that. Mel was surprised and asked what mage the knight was talking about. She pointed at Eisen and said that it was obvious to him since he was holding the staff, which meant he was a mage. In that case, challenging the beast in close combat was a detriment to oneself. Mel sighed understandingly and told her not to worry since everything would be fine. After which the girl smiled and added, looking at the master, that everything was fine because it was not just a staff. The ogre titan swung his club and hit Eisen with all his might, but missed the boy. The blade of a sword, positioned perpendicular to his staff, was visible from under the club. Eisen, unharmed by the attack, said that the ogre titan was too slow. Then he used an instant power spell, magically accelerating his body, and instantly cut off the demon's hand. The squad captain was shocked and screamed about what kind of speed it was. Then she added that if he strengthened his body with magic, such a technique, the movement of his hands, it exceeded her expectations in close combat. Mel said with a smile that it was normal. The main character found himself behind the monster, leaving behind a sword mark completely unharmed. The president said that this man was a prophet. They learned magic from him and even hand-to-hand combat techniques. After all, the master was much stronger than them, the heroes. The monster, not noticing Eisen's movement, turned around after the blow and with his arm cut off, used an evil ice blast spell. But Eisen knew that this was not the end and used magic, saying the words of Storm Strike. With a huge number of swings, he chopped the crystal fragment into small pieces, thereby repelling the beast's attack. After which he approached the monster and dealt damage to its second arm, splitting it into small pieces. However, he said that this was not all, after which he cast a spell that accelerated his body even faster. And with his sword he rushed through the demon, cutting through his chest and leaving him no chance to counterattack. The ogre titan jumped back with a roar. His hands began to heal, emitting smoke thanks to regeneration. Eisen noted that with constant attacks, regeneration will not be able to restore everything. However, due to its massiveness, its attack does not reach the point, seeing how the wound on the chest gradually heals, as if it did not cause any damage at all. The demon's arm has grown back, and the hero said that the piercing motion is important for his attacks. A club appeared in the monster's hand. The hero also assumed a fighting stance, and cast a spell to accumulate even more strength. And then immediately a new one on the blade which said to chop endlessly, while the enraged demon ran towards him. After which the hero finished the spell Judgment of Fate, making a cut from the bottom up. Who cut the maces? And then he caught up with the orcs. Everyone was amazed by this spectacle, unable to tear their eyes away. They watched the battle between the hero and the demon. However, only Rin and Mel smiled, knowing this outcome and not worrying about Eisen at all. The demon's body split into two parts and no longer regenerated. The young man put away his sword and began to move towards the rest of the people. He folded it into a staff, after which Mel came up to him and said that, as expected, he defeated it with such ease. Eisen smiled and replied that it was she who had bought enough time to save the students, and remarked that it was an amazing feat. She smiled sheepishly and said that the master was overpraising her. The young man replied that this was not so at all, because in the end, she had achieved her goal, namely, protecting the students. The president thought that he was always like this, always praising her after she did a good job. She remembered how he had praised her in the past, with his hand on her hair, and thought that this was always how it was. Then she, realizing her selfishness since he had already saved her, said that then she would like him to praise her as before. She was surprised by such a request and thoughtfully said that, as before, he put his hand on her head. He began to stroke her head. The happy girl laughed and said she always wanted him to praise her like this. The knights, watching this scene, said to each other that to think that there was a person who was allowed to touch the president's hair. They thought that it was incredible and wondered who he was. The girl pulled away and thanked Eisen, saying that she felt better now. The guy told her that it was wonderful and then asked if she would be okay without medical assistance. She replied that she had already received first aid, so everything was fine. She knew she wanted to tell him a lot, but there was something she decided to say when he returned. After which she said that she welcomed him home, and she and the rest of the heroes did everything they could to restore this world, waiting for his return. She said that he was home. Thanks to all of them, he could see this cheerful world. The next day, the Global Guild. A victory party was held in the guild tavern. All the knights celebrated the victory and success by talking to each other and eating together. Registrar Keisha said that if the Magic University fell, the Pioneer City would also be in danger, so those who stopped the attack should be rewarded. From the ogre titan that grew out of miasma, the university collected a lot of materials and received a huge amount of funds. And in order to arrange a banquet as a reward for the members of the security service who risked their lives, the celebrations in the Pioneer City continued for several days. When the holidays were over and the city had returned to its usual pace, Eisen and Rin finished preparing for departure and drove to the southern part of the city early in the morning. President Mel said that she had not yet thanked the master and asked if he was really leaving already. The young man laughed and said that there was no need. He had already received enough and now he had enough useful items to fill his magic bag. Mel still said that she wanted them to stay here and relax a bit since she had so much to tell them, and she also had fun chatting with Rin. Rin thanked her and said she was glad she was able to chat with Mel. The president reciprocated and said she had heard about her current situation. Mel said that she was very surprised to see that Eisen had not aged at all. She noted that the master looked even younger. The boy replied that it was all thanks to the former spirit emperor who healed him. The president presented a picture of an adult Eisen and said that there are many pictures of him, but since most people draw him as an old man, few remember his former appearance, and there are many people named Eisen, named after the war hero. She continued to say that as the prophet Eisen, she thought he would be welcomed in every city he visited. However, with his current appearance, he would probably not be recognized. The young man closed his eyes and said that he didn't mind, because it wasn't his goal after all, so everything was fine. He just wants to see the world that his wonderful students have restored and enriched. Mel was embarrassed and said that it was amazing and she hoped it was true. Eisen told her not to be so modest, because she was also one of his wonderful students. They looked at the city of Sagittale, and the young man said that he was glad that after leaving the spirit world he visited here first of all, because thanks to them, he was able to see many interesting things. The girl smiled and said that she was happy to hear this from the master, and then took a token out of her pocket and handed it to him. She added that she really didn't think she had thanked Eisen enough, so he should take the token with him. In this way, she guarantees him the status of an adventurer, which will give him the right to enter any place she can enter, which is most of the southern cities. Eisen was surprised and said that since the certificate had such power, he asked if she was sure that it was worth giving it to her. The girl nodded her head in agreement without hesitation and said that she was actually wondering if it was okay for her to act as a guarantor, since the master was much stronger than her. Mel said that if he found out that the master was coming, he would make a fuss, so it was better not to contact him in advance. Eisen said that he thought so too, although it would be great if they were received calmly. The hero simply doesn't want to cause trouble for his students. Mel smiled and remarked that the master was indeed considerate, and added that she would also help him travel incognito. She asked everyone at the university who knew his true identity to keep it a secret. She also wants to do something funny for the king who likes to fool around. Eureka apologized and said that at the victory celebration she heard that he was going to the trading city, after which she handed over the letter and added that she asked that Eisen accept this letter of recommendation. She added that he should show it to Katadama's company door. She added that in the letter she explained that Eisen was a prophet and asked them not to fuss about it, and then asked if there was anything scary about it. Eisen accepted the letter with a smile and thanked Eureka, saying that she had been very kind to him. Eureka replied that the guy had always helped her, so she asked him to let her do at least something for him. Mel shook Rin's hand and said that she trusted the master to her. Rin smiled and told him to trust her. They waved goodbye, wished them a good trip, and asked to definitely meet again. Thus, the two of them left the pioneer city of Sagittale and headed south. In the new world, they are eagerly awaiting the arrival of the disciples. Sometime later, half a day's journey from the town of Sagittale, on a rocky road in the middle of a forest. Eisen said that he thought that the journey on foot would take much longer, but the time flew by because of the beauty of the landscape. Post-town, there are only a couple of hotels and shops here. The heroes cross a bridge over a small river. Eisen thought about what one of his students wrote to him about how the ability to move freely and comfortably was very important in their time, so he focused on improving the roads. He told his companion that if they walked a little further, there would be a trading city ahead, so he was thinking about how best to get there. Rin asked about how to get there and wondered if they had any other options besides walking. Eisen nodded and said that one of his students wrote that he was engaged in the sale of carts, and he had branches in different postal cities. The companion said that she remembered very well that several years ago he said in a letter that he had opened his own business, and that his company also provided rental services. The hero replied that he thought that there was a branch in this city as well. They also recalled that Eureka had said that for the sake of people doing business in trading cities and wanting to sell goods outside of them, branches with carriage rentals were opened in small post towns. Eisen noted that even as ordinary adventurers, they could rent a carriage for a certain fee. However, the hero expressed a wish that he would rather walk, looking at the girl. He turned to her and said that if she was tired, they could take the cart. Rin thanked him for his concern, but of course she wanted to go for a walk with him. She raised her hand and, showing her readiness, said that she was not tired at all, because his training had hardened her so much that it was now simply impossible for her to get tired from simple walks. Rin smiled and said that she would also have fun walking with him. Eisen understood the girl's desire and said that then they would go on foot. The only thing Eisen wanted was to see with his own eyes the branch opened by his student, so he asked the girl if she would mind going there. The girl replied that of course she would not mind. Carriage rental. A small one-story wooden building with a sign in the form of a wheel, in front of which was a horseshoe. The hero and his companion went inside and the door, thanks to the bell, notified the worker, who greeted them. Eisen looked at the contracts that the information was written on and asked if it was possible to rent. The worker apologized and said that all the carriages were already booked, looking at the adventurers. The hero explained that there was nothing wrong with that, because he just wanted to look at the store, and they would somehow get to the trading city themselves. The man was surprised by these words and asked if they were planning to go on foot, since it would take a whole day and he would advise buying a tent. Eisen explained that everything was fine since they already had one. The worker asked if they were travelers. And then he explained his reaction that in their time, it was rare to meet adventurers who did not obey any organization, especially at their age. The young man thanked him for the compliment and asked if his shop had always been so successful, since the student's letter stated that there were not many customers, but he wanted to fix that over time. The worker explained that this is where business flourishes. The hero clarified that it is only here, unlike others. Eisen, following the logic, asked that demand grows depending on the development of trading cities. Rin noted that it was then necessary to visit the neighboring ones and follow their development. The young man thanked him for the information and apologized for disturbing the worker. The man said it was no big deal and wished them safe travels. The heroes left the store and, taking a deep breath, Eisen said that the atmosphere in that store was pleasant, which meant that his student had created an excellent company. The companion agreed and said that thanks to the guy's teaching methods, his student was able to understand the importance of building good relationships with clients, which means that this is also the young man's merit. Eisen laughed and said that his student managed to open a great company not because he was his teacher, but everything was possible only thanks to his own excellent abilities. After which he asked Rin if they would continue their journey after a short break in a coffee shop. The girl agreed and said that lunch with him was one of the joys of traveling. After some time, they were brought a plate of food in one of the cafes. The guy commented that it was a very tasty omelet, and Rin agreed and said that there were a lot of good cafes here, and the egg dishes in them were excellent. Eisen said it was about a day's walk to the nearest trading town, but if they did a little jogging, they could get there before nightfall. After which he added that, of course, he would like to take a walk under the starry sky, but it would be better if they arrived before dark, and asked his companion if she would mind that. After lunch, outside the city, there was a small path in the middle of the forest, along which the heroes ran. Rin noticed that there was a carriage in front of them and told Eisen, who was running next to her. He said he saw it too, and as they ran, they noticed a guy sitting next to a horse lying on the ground. The guy was turning to her and asking if she was going to get up after everything he had given her. Eisen came up to him and asked what had happened. The guy awkwardly apologized for blocking their way. He stood up and Eisen added that there was no need to worry about it, and then asked if his cart had broken down since it was dangerous to stop there. The young man explained that he knew, but the unicorn could not move, so they did not go. He added that he was a merchant, so he couldn't possibly abandon the cargo, so he was probably stuck for a long time. He also said that he had asked his partner to go to town and call for help, but that would take at least a day. After which he looked at the lying horse and said that he was afraid to leave the cart unattended. Eisen turned his attention to the horse and, noticing the horn, exclaimed that it was a unicorn, a peaceful magical beast. Unicorns are much more resilient than ordinary horses. The hero noticed that he was not in the best condition. The guy explained that he thought the unicorn had eaten some poisonous grass, so he had to give it an antidote, but nothing changed. Eisen approached the unicorn's head, crouched in front of it, and used magic to tell it to let him talk to him. And then he began to hear from the unicorn on the streams that he could not move. His right hind leg was numb, and he wondered why he could not move because he wanted to help his master, but he could not. The guy noticed from the side that the unicorn and Eisen were communicating, although he didn't understand anything, and then Eisen stood up and walked around, realizing that the problem was in the back right leg. He ran his hand over it and noticed the thorn. Realizing what it was, he then pulled it out, causing the unicorn to immediately flinch. Then he calmly stood up on his feet. Eisen explained that the unicorn had a needle stuck in its leg and added that it looked like a needle from a poisonous hedgehog. And now that he had pulled it out, the antidote could be given to the unicorn again. The guy said he had no problem with that and thanked the hero. After which he thought about the fact that they had not gone that far from the post town, and apparently they had not met such hedgehogs on the road. Eisen, looking at the needle, said that this meant that someone had set it up, because the poison was quite effective. The guy pouring the antidote for the unicorn said that merchants are often attacked by their competitors and ordinary bandits, but he still does not understand who might need it. Then the guy stood up and said that he had given the antidote, and the hero said that then he would soon regain his strength. The young man thanked the hero and added that he did not expect that such a problem could be noticed at first glance, so he asked the hero if he could use spiritual magic of words. Eisen was surprised that the young man knew about this type of magic. The guy confirmed and said that his colleagues use it from time to time. Eisen knew that spiritual word magic and prophecy magic were slightly different, but spiritual word magic sounded better, so from now on he would call it that. The boy added that it was the first time he had seen this method of using this magic. Eisen was surprised and replied that he did not think it was anything special. The young man thought about it and said that he would not have said that because his friends controlled animals through elemental magic. And then he added that when they listen to other creatures talking, they don't understand a lot of things, so it's quite difficult for them to conduct a dialogue. Eisen was surprised again and learned that this also happens. The guy explained that this is why he became interested, in how he was able to get the unicorn to tell him exactly where it hurt. The hero lowered his head and said that he simply met many different creatures on his way, and somehow began to understand them. He recalled how during the war he had to communicate spiritually with people who were unable to speak because of terrible wounds, and this experience probably developed his abilities. The unicorn climbed up to the hero, and Eisen stroked it in response, saying that it seemed to have become easier for him. The guy exclaimed that his unicorn had suffered a lot just recently, so now he was very grateful. Eisen asked the young man if he could now continue his journey. The boy approached the cart and replied that he would check now. After which he thoughtfully said that it looked like it wouldn't work because he couldn't do without a repairman. The cart was in a precarious state. Eisen approached the carriage and said that he would now see what was going on, and after that he used a spell to make her tell him about her condition. After which, having listened to the flows of mana, he understood what was going on, and bending down, he took out a strange object from under the carriage. The guy, looking at her, asked what kind of piece of metal it was. Eisen answered that there was a thin layer of some kind of liquid on it. Rin, approaching, hesitantly noted that it looked like some kind of magic potion. He nodded and said that it was a potion that restricted movement. The young man asked in confusion that it had come from the luggage, or maybe it was the tricks of competitors again. After which he sat down and took the reins, joyfully shouting that now the cart could move and thanked the heroes. He asked Eisen if he was good at technology, because he had heard that in order to use spiritual word magic on inanimate objects, one must know a lot about it. Eisen shook his head. He replied that they say that things that are cared for have a soul, and this cart had one, so, understanding the reason why it could not move, it told the hero about the problem. The young man was surprised and added that this was incomprehensible to him, and also that the reason was that he really valued this cart very much. Eisen waved his hand and asked that there were no more problems. The young man replied that it looked like it, so he would continue on his way. Eisen replied that he was glad and wished him a good journey. The boy asked if they were also heading to the trading city, since it was still a long way to go on foot, and they had spent a lot of time helping him. So the boy smiled and offered to go with him since they were heading there too. Eisen asked if the guy was definitely okay with it, and received the answer that of course no, because he couldn't thank him in any way now, so he would be very happy if he could at least just give him a ride. The hero turned around and said that he would take up the offer, and then asked if he could find out the boy's name, introducing himself and Rin. The young man noted that they were a little late in introducing themselves, and then introduced himself, saying that his name was Ro, that he belonged to one of the companies in the trading city, and then added that his full name was Ro Harbor. Eisen noted that they were traveling at a fairly high speed despite the fact that they were carrying a lot of cargo. Ro said that this was their company's carriage, so both the horse and the cart were first class. He also added that he was very glad that thanks to them the breakdown was fixed, because he had already started thinking about renting a cart from the post town, but he couldn't leave the cargo. Eisen said he thought he had made the right choice by staying put, especially since all the carriages in the post town were already booked. Ro turned over his shoulder and said that he was very lucky to have met the heroes. Eisen explained that helping him was just a whim, but he was very happy that the boy was happy with the result. And then the hero added that the unicorn Ro was especially lucky. These words surprised the young man, and he asked again what he meant. Eisen said that during a difficult moment for the unicorn, Ro was next to him and tried to calm him down, for which the animal was very grateful to him. Ro became very embarrassed, putting his hand behind his head, and said that the unicorn was always with him during training, so he was a great horse and he did not want to leave him. Ro was very happy with these words and, tugging at the reins, explained that horses are the companions of traders. Although he considers him a full-fledged comrade, so much does he value him. The unicorn exhaled joyfully, confirming the words of the owner. Ro was very grateful for this conversation, and then he said that it was still a long way to the trading city, but he felt better because the heroes were going with him. They would be able to get to the city before it got dark and the magical beasts came out of the forest, so they could relax and enjoy the ride. Eisen replied that they would be happy to do so, and added that if he needed help with anything, he could speak to him about it without embarrassment. The travelers continued their journey together. Ro reflected that the delay had cleared the road of foot travelers and other wagons, so he thought that at this rate they would make it before nightfall. Then something ahead caught his attention. He saw a carriage overturned on its side and a fallen tree. Ro began to think that the overturned cart had crashed into this tree, but he did not understand why the driver and horse were not visible, thinking that they had gone for help. Ro tugged on the reins to slow down a little and began to circle the obstacle from the side. But from the foliage of the tree, an unknown man climbed onto the cart. Then he jumped from her onto Ro, swinging his dagger. Ro, reacting quickly, jerked the reins, causing the horse to quickly shift to the side. The robber failed to hit with his weapon. He landed on the ground, surprised by the merchant's reaction, and took a breath, rising to his feet. After which he laughed and said that the young man was not bad, as expected from a merchant who was entrusted with a cart with the company emblem. Ro immediately realized that he was no match for the attacking bandit, so he should quickly continue on his way. However, the unicorn fell to the ground again, surprising the merchant, and he got down to check what had happened. After which he noticed 3 spikes stuck into the horse's back and couldn't believe his eyes. The robber politely explained that this time the poison was fast-acting, and even if he gave the horse an antidote, it wouldn't be able to get up right away. Ro glanced over his shoulder at the bandit and realized that without a doubt, the previous spike scent was his doing. The bandit at that moment commanded that everything was ready and the rest of the guys could go out. A large number of armed men appeared behind him, and he said that the horse had been stopped, which meant that his work here was done, and it was time for the other guys. The bandits smiled with anticipation, and one of them told the boss that today, as always, there was a great catch. The boss replied that the poison was a great idea. Then the robber turned to the merchant and said that he was sure that his cart was filled with all sorts of expensive junk. Ro realized that it would not be possible to come to an agreement with these bandits, and tried to think of another way out of this situation. The robber confirmed the merchant's words and said that he had already disturbed them once, slowly approaching Ro. Ro knew he couldn't dodge. Eisen's spell was heard, calling upon the wind to protect the merchant. A sharp gust of wind deflected the flying dagger to the side right in front of Ro, saving him, surprising the young man. The robbers were also amazed, and Eisen, getting out of the cart, said that he noticed how the situation had become tense. He pointed his staff towards the bandits and asked that they were bandits with whom it was useless to talk, which meant that he would deal with the rest himself. The bandit boss, drawing his sword from its sheath, asked the hero who he was. A man nearby noticed the staff and concluded that he was the accompanying mage. The first bandit who attacked said that he was not there when they left the post town. Rin asked Eisen what they were going to do, and the robber, noticing a beauty nearby, interested the bandits. Another noted that she was also an elf, and for such a one on the black market they would pay a lot of money. Eisen looked at the bandits with disgust, noticing that they were discussing trade, and thought that the bandits did not change their traditions. He then held up one finger and said he would only ask for one thing, looking at them with a contemptuous look. The leader of the bandits interrupted him, and turning to the hero, said that he would take pity on them only if they laid down their weapons, and allowed their bodies to be thoroughly abused. Eisen smiled and replied that he had no intention of asking for such a thing, in response to asking if they wanted to surrender to the city guard right now. Everyone was silent for a moment, and then the bandits laughed, noting that these were excellent last words, calling Eisen a good joker. Then he added that in that case the conversation was over, and in gratitude for making them laugh, he will get a quick death. All the bandits ran towards the heroes. Eisen, holding out his staff, asked what this meant, that they did not want to surrender, and said that then he had no choice. The bandits, joking that even now he wanted to cast a spell, remarked on what a desperate fellow Eisen was. They were already very close and said that he would not even have time to cast a spell in response. However, the young man had no intention of saying it, striking with his staff and knocking out the bandits who had attacked him, and surprising those who remained in their places. The leader of the bandits is in shock. He thought about how he didn't use magic, and the man didn't even have time to follow his movements. After that, mana streams appeared around Eisen, and only now he used the acceleration spell. Instantly jumping up, he walked through all the bandits standing closest to him and struck them. Those who remained on their feet held their weapons towards the hero and wondered how he did it. The leader of the bandits gave the order that they simply needed to choose another target, and said that they needed to take Rin hostage. Rin, hearing their conversations perfectly well, clarified their wishes, asking if they were sure about it. But the bandit was already running towards her, and the girl, taking out daggers from behind her back, stuck them into the man's leg. He was shocked by this, and Rin asked if he really thought he would be allowed to touch the girl with his dirty hands. She then cast the electric blade spell, and the electric shock affected the bandit's entire body. Rin reported to Eisen that she was done. The guy, with a smile on his face, said that he was too. Then he sent the bandits towards the boss and said that he was the last one left. The boss shouted that the mages couldn't be that strong, so he asked who they were. But before he could even react, Eisen came close to the man and said that they were now ordinary adventurers, after which he dealt several blows. Eisen smiled and said that the robbery had failed, so he would hand them over to the guard on duty. They piled the unconscious bodies of the bandits into the cart. Ro exclaimed that they had saved him and expressed his deep gratitude. Eisen replied that he shouldn't worry about that because they could hurt them too. Ro said that he suspected that the heroes were not simple adventurers, but recent events only confirmed his suspicions. However, Ro said that it was still hard to believe that they actually had that much power. Eisen said that he had tied up the robbers properly, putting some magic into the rope, and offered to hand them over to the guards of the trading city. Ro agreed and, saying that the horse was fine, suggested that they move on quickly, and then added that he should thank them when they arrived in the city. Eisen wished them to be careful because it was already getting dark. The sun had almost completely set behind the horizon, and the carriage with the heroes arrived at the trading city of Olens. They handed the bandits over to the guards and, using magic, showed everything that happened on the way, giving testimony. The guard replied that it was the group that had been causing trouble in the area lately. They used a special poison, so they were good at robbing wagons. Recalling their memories was enough to prove their guilt. He also added that due to the intensive development of the city, faster methods of establishing guilt began to appear. The heroes were given a reward for their achievement. Eisen noted that he had forgotten that they were paid for this. Ro explained that this was the policy of the city's mayor and deputy mayor, and since public safety could be improved with money, it would be better to take such measures. Rin said that with this money they could stay in a hotel for a few days. Eisen replied that there was no such thing as too much money, so he would gladly accept it. At that moment, a man approached them and addressed Ro, saying that he was surprised when the guards told him that he had arrived in the city since he had not even had time to send repairmen. Ro addressed the man back as David and said he had been helped. David replied that he had overheard the guards and learned that he had met adventurers who had repaired the cart and dealt with the robbers. He nodded and said that he would like to meet such cool guys in person, noticing the companions nearby and realizing that he was talking about them. Ro nodded and replied that it was them, praising them. David approached them and bowed, apologizing for being so late. The man thanked the heroes for saving his comrade and his horse. And then he introduced himself again and said that he would do everything he could to repay them. Eisen replied that anyone in a similar situation would have done the same, so there was no need to thank. David said that no matter what the reason, he would not rest until he thanked. Ro added that until the debt was repaid, he would not consider himself a merchant. Ro then turned to David and said that he had heard that they were going to stay in the city for a while. The man replied that he had already arranged accommodation, adding that it was a huge apartment on the main street, which was already paid for. Praising David, Ro turned to the heroes and said that he wanted them to stay there without worrying about paying. Eisen nodded and agreed, thanking him, because it's not every day that you get to live in a great apartment. David said that this, of course, was not enough to thank him for saving his life, but he had not yet managed to do anything else, so he asked for a little time. And Ro, as a small addition, offered to have dinner together at his expense, to which the heroes agreed. Ro said he knew a great place and asked David to book it. The man, having anticipated this, said he had already booked it. Eisen said he wanted to leave his things at the hotel and walk around the city, and Ro said that's what they would do then. The heroes reached the apartment and Ro said that they would leave them and meet again in 2 hours. The restaurant was nearby, so they would wait at the entrance to the hotel. Rin admired the beauty and spaciousness of the apartment and noted that there were even several sleeping places and even a bathroom. Eisen suggested leaving their things and walking around the area. The girl agreed. After a while, they went out into the street and began to walk past various establishments and shops. Eisen said that even at night it was so light and lively, and Rin noticed a juice stand. The guy also said he would like to try one. The girl said that fruits are being brought to the market town, so she is thinking of getting a mix. Then the hero noticed a tower that was used for observation, open to the public. and suggested that the girl go there. They climbed onto it and looked out over the night city, full of lights. Rin admired the beauty of the view, and Eisen said that it was much larger than the one he remembered. He explained that many years ago the territory of the trading city was surrounded by high walls, so the number of buildings behind the wall can tell how much the city has expanded. Rin understood why her teacher looked at the city map in the hotel with such surprise, and suggested that they take a walk through the new areas. They went back outside and continued walking. Ro told them that the area behind the wall was mostly residential and commercial areas, which meant that the area behind the wall would be in good condition. Then they noticed a sign with an empty area, and Eisen commented that it seemed to be an undeveloped area. The sign had a message telling people to be careful because it was a future development area and city hall area. Rin said the city is constantly expanding, and Eisen added that he enjoys seeing the infrastructure develop, as it is much harder to convey feelings through letters. Then he noticed the staff was glowing, meaning he had left some of his magic somewhere here. He headed to the territory and realizing that he needed space. He pointed his staff and removed the seal from the tree trunk. Eisen received the skill to increase the magic power of the second level. He had already forgotten that he left his magic here. He said that to seal the magic he tried to choose deserted places, far from cities. However, he did not expect that Olens would grow so much, surprised by his students. He was lucky that during this walk he found a fragment of sealed magic. Rin said she had the impression that the guy had foreseen this, that it was to be expected. The guy replied that it just happened because this city is full of pleasant surprises. Then he suggested moving towards the hotel, since 2 hours were already up and it was time to meet. He wonders where the merchants will take him, because Ro and his friend said that they wanted to take him to a restaurant called the White Cat House. After a while in a restaurant, David said that they could eat and drink as much as they wanted, all at his expense. He ordered the most popular dishes and therefore asked to enjoy the best restaurant in the trading city. The heroes thanked the man, and in addition to the food, they also enjoyed a live performance. Ro explained that there is often dancing or singing, and sometimes acrobats perform, all for free. They also booked a special table. In addition to the stage, it has a great view of the main stage. It is connected behind the scenes to the one below, so the performers will go right onto it. However, he added that touching them is prohibited, but you can reorder the melody you like. Eisen said that he understood and that it was a great place. Ro continued to explain that today a professional artist was performing, an incredible singer and acrobat, who had perfect command of theatrical art and many musical instruments. While he was explaining, the performance had already begun. Eisen noted that the musician himself was not visible, but he liked the melody. And the food is also very tasty. Rin agrees with Eisen and adds that there are a lot of aromatic spices here, so the smell is also incredible. She really wants to see what it is made of. Ro asked if Rin liked to cook. The girl nodded and said that she liked to cook for the teacher. Ro remarked that it seemed like he really liked the food here too. Eisen agreed. David said that he was very happy because the trading city brings together many famous chefs who prepare dishes from unusual ingredients brought from different cities. And then he summed up that everyone should eat to their health, and that he, on behalf of the entire company, the door to the magic of words, would try to please everyone in any way he could. Eisen was surprised by such a name of the company, because it is a huge company from a trading city. Ro remembered that he had not spoken of it, but he and David were its creators. David added that he, the word spirit mage, and the merchant Ro had discovered it together. Much time has passed since its foundation, and they have managed to gather many professionals, thanks to which their company provides a wide range of services, from business consulting to blacksmithing and support. Eisen didn't even think that they were the founders of this company, and Ro replied that he and David had different professions, but they were able to work together. David, as he thought, noted that they saved Ro, without even knowing that he was the head of the company. Eisen confirmed that he only found out now. David said that he was even more grateful then, and Ro added that he was very grateful for the kindness and openness. David noted that they already knew the name of their company and that it was big. Eisen confirmed and said that he has a friend who works for them, and said that her name is Eureka Griffin. The men were surprised by these words and clarified that this was the head of the alchemist garden. Eisen took out and handed the merchants a letter written by her, and they could check the seal. Ro said that Eureka was their friend who had helped them a lot with the development of the company. David added that it was a magic seal that only she could cast, which meant that they really knew each other. The men then read the letter, were shocked, and reread its contents again. Ro excitedly asked if what was written in the letter was true. David clarified the part about him being a prophet and master of 100 heroes. Eisen confirmed and said that he didn't think they knew about him. David said that even wandering musicians write songs about him. and Ro added that he was already a very old man and asked about magic that hides age. Eisen said that he lived for a long time in a place where time slows down, and asked when they managed to compose legends about him. Ro replied that although he didn't know the details, he had heard about it many times. And the dumbfounded David added that Eureka certainly wouldn't lie. He couldn't even imagine that the legendary sage would decide to take a walk through their world. Then the men understood and asked if they were thinking the same thing, exchanging glances. Eisen asked what happened, and Ro explained that the artist they were talking about very rarely visits this city, because she is too famous and talented for such a backwater. And she is one of 100 heroes. Eisen looked towards the stage, understanding the meaning of these words, and began to wait. A girl backstage at the main stage said that her heart began to beat again from nostalgia. The girl quickly ran out, attracting the attention of the guests, and ran towards their table, shouting that, as she thought, the master had returned. She, looking at him, threw herself into his arms and called Eisen her beloved teacher with joy on her face. Eisen said that he was just thinking about how he had heard this melody somewhere before, and how he knew that it was played by a girl named Fila. Fila replied that she, his favorite student, was performing before the wonderful master, looking into his eyes. Ro was stunned when, without a second thought, one of the 100 heroes approached them, and he remarked on how lucky it was that their table was in a specially hidden area from prying eyes. Fila talked about how she wanted to meet Eisen again. She moved closer to his chest and said that she could hear his heartbeat, and when she heard it, she felt calm and warm. David said that she looked more modest and sophisticated in her performances, and Ro added that they had the same thoughts. Fila apologized for not being able to control herself, because she simply could not be a bore in front of the teacher. Eisen apologized for frightening the merchants and explained that Fila had always been very emotional, so this happened often. Fila was glad that Eisen remembered her name, and the young man replied that she was his student. Fila talked about how happy she was, so much so that this moment is in the top 5 happy moments. She added that the top 3 were all the times he praised her. Rin asked about the name of this inspired girl. Eisen replied that it was Fila Durham, the same student who loved to make people smile. Fila exclaimed that she felt an aura of love for the teacher from the elf, and asked if she was one of the students. The girl replied that she was indeed one of them. Her name was Rin, and she was the last of those whom Eisen took as a student. Fila realized that she was the same Rin who sometimes answered letters instead of the master, because her name was mentioned in some of them. The girl confirmed it. Fila shook her hand and said that she looked very nice and that since they loved the same person, they could be called friends. Rin accepted the offer of friendship. Ro told Eisen that he had booked a separate room to avoid noise and offered to move there. The young man thanked him. Fila sat hugging the teacher, and Ro apologized for having to go to such an unsightly room. Eisen asked not to think about it, because he, on the contrary, was grateful for the foresight. The actress said she was shown a portion of the letter which said it would be better not to reveal his identity, so she would try not to make any more noise. Then she added that she noticed how Eisen had returned to his previous form. The guy confirmed and said that he was currently traveling around the world because he wanted to see his students and visit different interesting places. Fila happily said that she also travels, visiting different cities. That's why I asked Eisen to let me go with him. Eisen told the girl that she had worked in the north, having assembled a theater group of professionals from various creative fields. And then she left the city alone, saying she wanted to perform all over the world. He asked if that meant she was still traveling. Fila was glad that he remembered her letters. Eisen replied that it was difficult not to remember because she wrote in her own bright style. The girl said that she would like to be remembered. She asked that since they were heading from Sagittale, that meant they were heading south. Fila added that she was also going there, and she also knows the location of several students, so she can help. Eisen said he didn't mind and asked Rin who didn't mind either. Then the guy asked Fila if she had a specific purpose for the trip, because if their plans didn't interfere with her, they would gladly take her along. Fila replied that they do not interfere and that she feels happy next to him. These feelings motivate her to perform better, and in art, feelings are the most important thing. Eisen said that they would be moving out soon then. Fila thanked him and said that she would do everything she could. Ro noticed that they had finished their conversation and suggested that they continue their dinner. Eisen agreed that they should properly celebrate the meeting of an old friend. After a while, Fila hugged Rin and offered to spend the night in the same bed so they could gossip about the teacher all night. The elf agreed. David asked Eisen to step aside for a moment to tell him something. Eisen agreed, and David said that he wanted to contribute to the upcoming trip. Therefore, he wants to convey information about another hero from the trading city. Eisen assumed that they were talking about the mayor. David said that he didn't know Phil would be here, so he originally came here to meet the mayor. Eisen noted that the mayor is usually busy, so he's not in town very often. That's why David wanted to help gather information about the mayor's whereabouts, and if possible, asks Eisen to come to their main office tomorrow. Eisen thanked him and promised to come by. David was happy and wished him good night. Headquarters, the door to the magic of words. Fourth floor, the office of the authorities. David told Ro that the day had been eventful. Ro agreed and recounted how the cart broke down, bandits attacked, but everything ended well. He would never have thought that he would be able to meet the prophet himself, about whom he had heard legends as a child. David agreed and said that they even managed to become friends. And Ro was able to talk to him even before he found out that he was a prophet. And Eisen didn't even know that Ro was one of the founders of the company. He is glad that they were able to meet without burdening each other with unnecessary formalities. As a result, he was convinced that Eisen is a very reliable person, and this is important. David replied that then he should be repaid in kind, and suggested that they start collecting information. He added that the city management department reception should be open even at night. Although this is not the most urgent matter, and they are not obliged to listen after sunset, they should meet the representatives of a large company halfway. Ro stood up and asked if they should go to the control room first. David said he had forgotten that the deputy mayor wanted to give them some kind of task and maybe something dangerous. He asked if it was worth trying. Ro replied that they would start their search for information from there. David agreed. His hearty meal had lifted his spirits and he was ready to work all night. Early morning of the next day, the headquarters of the door to the magic of words. Eisen came thinking about what Ro and David said, that he should go to the reception. Even though it is early, there are already many people here, so it is true that the company is successful. Eisen approached the reception area and addressed the worker. She found out what business they had come to her for. The hero introduced himself and said that he had an appointment. Could you please tell them about his arrival? The girl apologized and asked if he meant about the company directors. The guy confirmed and added that they invited him personally. The worker apologized and asked who the guy was. At that moment, David called out and said that he suspected that the guy would come to the opening. The girl asked why David was here, and he replied that he had personally come out to meet the guest. The girl clarified that Eisen, his acquaintance, was true and apologized for not being able to provide a proper welcome. The man said not to worry because he had not notified in advance and explained that he was in his debt, so next time he asked to meet him accordingly. People in the hall began to discuss the fact that the boss had personally come out and began to talk about the important guest. David and Eisen went into the reception area. The employee thought that the reception area was the link between the company and the clients, so she thought that she would be able to remember the faces of all the important clients. David apologized, explaining that he had kept Eisen's status a secret from the staff. Eisen replied that everything was fine. The man asked where the companions were, and the guy replied that they had been talking all night, so they were fast asleep. Third floor, main conference room. David said that besides Ro, there would be another person present who had information about the mayor, and then opened the door. They walked inside where they were greeted by Ro and the deputy mayor of the trading city. He introduced himself as Woods and said he was pleased to meet you. Eisen thanked him for taking the time to talk, and David explained that he was a trusted person to whom he had explained the situation. Woods said their city is thriving thanks to the proactive policies of the mayor, from whom he has heard a lot about Eisen, so it is an honor to meet him. He explained that if the mayor had known he was coming, he would have quit his job, so Woods was grateful that Eisen had come secretly. The mayor said that Eisen was a man who thought of others. And then the deputy explained that the mayor was currently away. He had gone to a neighboring city and would be back in a week or two. Ro said they now had someone who could immediately notify them of the mayor's return, and they could then schedule a meeting for that time. Eisen thanked them for what they had done for him. Woods asked what the boy had planned after this meeting. The young man said that it was nothing special. The deputy then decided to make a request. Relying on the prophet's abilities, find out information from the criminal without killing him. Eisen said the deputy was well aware of his abilities. Woods replied that this was a given, since in trading cities they build special pastures where they raise harmless demonic beasts. Since ancient times, there were tamers who subdued and contracted demonic beasts. Eisen realized that this was about domestication. The deputy said that Eisen had been active in this field before, but it was still an undeveloped industry. In truth, an urgent message about the rampage of demonic beasts came from such a pasture. Eisen clarified that the request was to stop the rampage. The deputy confirmed that domesticated animals are very valuable, so they need to be stopped without causing harm. David said that they usually dealt with such requests, But this time it would be difficult because there were not as many specialists. Eisen asked if David would be okay with him taking on the job. Rin and Phila would join him. The man replied that he would be happy to, and Ro added that his gift was equal to the abilities of 100 people. Eisen replied that since he was here for a long time, he would fulfill their request. Woods thanked him and promised to reward him generously. Eisen replied that he had already done him a favor. And then the hero summed up that they could start the task. The deputy confirmed and said that he would give a map and he would find out the details on the spot. Eisen asked if he could go pick up the students first. David replied that he had already made arrangements and that they were waiting in the reception area. The man also added that he would send escorts with them, and when they returned, he would introduce them. The man and the boy left. Ro told the deputy he was amazed that Eisen had agreed to the sudden request. Woods confirmed it. And he added that he was also surprised, and also that he was able to see with his own eyes the prophet, who turned out to be responsive. Ro noted that among the 100 heroes, including the mayor, there are many sympathetic people. Their mayor is strong in character, and this affects the atmosphere in the city. Ro then invited Woods to sit down and said that he would now make tea because he had another task. Woods confirmed and added that this was work for them as an intermediary company. An intermediary company is a proven organization that cooperates with the city. Such tasks are of high importance. Even a small task is well paid, so they turn to companies first. Ro said that from what he understood, this was a rather troublesome mission. The deputy replied that, to be more precise, it was a mission with a high level of danger. On the outskirts of the city, there is a large mansion where a man called the Scientist lives. Lately, something strange has been happening there. Since the beginning of this year, he has spent all his time in captivity. From time to time, people come to him to deliver provisions. Ro suggested that it might be a scientist immersed in research, but Woods explained that was the problem. He said that this scientist asked the people who came to him, "Don't they want to know about the power of the Dark God?" Ro pointed out that this was indeed not very good. The deputy said that during the war, there were many people who wanted to obtain the power of the Dark God, and it is said that even now, there are secret orders operating. The deputy explained that, having received the information, he wanted to send soldiers immediately, but taking into account the frightened townspeople, they realized that if they began to conduct an open investigation, then everyone who had any connection to the order would not come even one step closer to this place. So Woods said he wanted to ask Ro to conduct a covert investigation under the guise of delivering food supplies. He would need to break into the house and gather information. And this requires a mage with a strong gift who can discern objects with evil matter. In their city, only Ro has this ability. Ro's eye abilities, which allows him to distinguish energy by color. He can detect evil energy in objects. This is very useful not only for a merchant. Ro thought that even if that was the case, it required concentration to use. And if there was little energy, it would be difficult to track it, especially since he hadn't recovered from the bandits' attack. However, Ro said that although his gift was not strong, he could help in this matter. The deputy was delighted. He also added that Ro was used to this type of work, and he would add a danger bonus to his pay. Ro sighed and said he would take the job. He needs to hurry because everything related to the Dark God does not require delay. Rin asked enthusiastically about the task and said that they should definitely go together. And Phila supported her and said that she would also join. Eisen agreed with the girls and suggested returning to the company. After a while, they gathered inside, and David attracted the attention of everyone gathered in the reception area. One of the soldiers asked David who the people next to him were. The man explained that they had helped him a lot. Then the soldiers saw Phila, and one of them asked if she was one of the 100 heroes. Another soldier also recognized her. The third added that the magic of music would improve their abilities and mood. They started talking about how they had heard her play before, and it was just amazing, and they were very grateful for it. Eisen thought that the 100 heroes were really respected, and he was happy for his students. Then the soldiers began to wonder if the others would cope, since the work was dangerous and they looked weak, although they were strongly built. And another explained that since the boss had brought them, everything was fine. David firmly said that he would not repeat it. These people received his recommendation, which means it would be rude to doubt them. The soldiers collectively responded that they understood, and David said that in that case they needed to start checking their equipment. Eisen told David that he was a very good boss and that people liked him. He replied that he was far from 100 heroes and apologized for his subordinates. The men gathered and reported that they had prepared everything. The head of the company gave the order to set off. A little later, a pasture on the outskirts of the city. The soldiers walked along the path led by David and the heroes. A young man ran out to meet them, and said that he had heard that their company had taken on the task and thanked them. Eisen asked if the young man was a pasture worker. He agreed and said that the mayor had warned him. Eisen replied that he had been assigned to deal with the rampaging monsters and that he seemed to have seen them. Rebellious domesticated animals ran out across the field towards them and attracted the attention of the gathered crowd. Domesticated animals, resembling rams with sharp horns, broke down the fence in front of them. Eisen recognized the metal sheep. What surprised the young man, who began to tell that when they are excited about something, their fur and horns acquire the properties of metal, pointing to the destroyed fence. He said that the sheep were usually calm, but something had stirred them up and now they couldn't calm down. He then pointed to the building and said that the fence was reinforced with strong protective magic, and therefore the sheep could be driven there until they calmed down. Eisen said that there was another option, namely, to use them to find out the cause of the riot and eliminate it. The young man confirmed. David said that indeed, with their powers they could try to pacify them, and asked how many metal sheep there were in total. The worker replied that by the mayor's decision there were 104 of them, and these sheep were very dear to them because they had become attached to them. As long as nothing bad happened, he asked to calm them down. David said he understood everything, so he would try to go easy on them. After which he went into the pen with the rest of the people and asked Eisen to see how strong the effect would be. The violent metal sheep ran towards the man. He sighed heavily and said that he was starting. Then he used pacifying magic. The sheep in front of him slowed down, after which he repeated the spell. The sheep were stunned and stopped. So David said that it was enough. Eisen replied that such magic would surely be enough to hold them back. The man said that the problem was not completely solved, but at least no one would get hurt, so David suggested that they drive them behind a fence. Then he turned to the soldiers and ordered them to sort out in threes and bring a sheep here from each road. The soldiers understood and went to work shouting. Eisen said that it was time for them to move on then. Phila agreed and noted that this was their common task, so she would try. Rin said that she would not let them down either and that they should split up, she with Phila and Eisen separately. The guy agreed and Phila told him to rely on her, and also that Rin's help would be irreplaceable. Eisen turned around and said that he would go in that direction, and the girls waved and went in the other direction. After a while, the metal sheep ran towards Rin, and she, thinking that it was impossible to kill, thought that hypnosis worked on them in this state. So she decided to try to do it differently. She ran towards the wild domesticated beast, and with a quick blow of her blade hit the sheep on the forehead. The stunned metal sheep took a few steps and fell to the ground, and Rin said that she tried to infuse magic through a blow with the flat of her hand. It's a bit of a crude method, but she asked the sheep to go to sleep, using a deep sleep spell. Phila came up to her and said that it was amazing to put a sheep to sleep with a sword. Then she pulled out a violin and said that now she too must show what she could do. Rin apologized and asked where the girl got the violin from. David ran up to the girls and asked if they had caught one yet, as that was to be expected from them. The girls thanked him, and they asked how the man was doing. They turned around and saw the soldiers struggling to calm the metal sheep. They pounced on them, shouting that these creatures were immune to the magic of words. They rushed after the sheep, because once they got away they could speed up. David told the girls that they could see they were holding them back by force, but they were exhausted and it would take time. He thought the muscular word mages would be able to handle it. Phila said that she would help them with the magic of performances, so their power would increase significantly if they listened to her playing and singing. David thanked her. Rinna was still curious about where Phila got the instrument from, but the girl said she would tell her later, but for now she had to perform. This time, since the text would cause trouble for the word mages, she would only play the melody. After which, the mana spread across the field and enveloped all the soldiers, while the girl continued to play the violin. The men were shocked. They turned towards her, thinking about what a beautiful melody it was. Even their bodies somehow warmed up. The soldiers were delighted and noticed how they were filled with strength, so now they would definitely succeed. They grabbed the metal sheep and shouted happily that they were holding it back, and David praised them and asked them to hold on. Then when the sheep became obedient, the soldiers began to lead them into the pen. David said that this was to be expected from a hero. She helped a lot by strengthening her subordinates. Falad Durham was happy and said she was pleased with how everyone worked with smiles on their faces. Then there was a sound and the heroes turned towards him. They noticed the sheep pushing the man to the ground. David asked why they couldn't subdue him, and the girl explained that they were outside the area of effect and the enhancement didn't work on them. Rin ran saying that they had to help, but Phila stopped her and said that everything was okay. She put out her hand and said that since the situation was urgent, this is what she would do. And the next moment, she used a spell to launch her right hand. The hand calmed the sheep, and Phila said that it seemed to cool her head and that everything would be all right now. Rin asked what was wrong with Falaz's hand, and the girl remembered that no one really knew about her race except the master. And then she introduced herself as Automata. She has magic that allows her body to be disassembled and reassembled. The girl smiled awkwardly and said that it was the first time she had seen an automaton. They said that it was not often that one could see this race. Their origin is a complete mystery. They are difficult to distinguish from humans by their appearance. The number of this race is extremely low, and details about them are practically unknown to anyone. Rin smiled and thought about how the social studies textbooks and the book that teacher Eisen recommended to her only said this. Rin said that she heard that Master Eisen had students of different races, but it was very surprising. Jerome can not only play an instrument and sing, but also split his body. Jerome laughed and said she was very pleased with the praise. She was increasingly filled with a desire to get to work. The girl then straightened her arm and used the start command on her left arm. Suddenly, the girl's left hand separated. She flew straight to where the men were chasing the ram, as the wooden fence wouldn't stop it, so they had to catch up with it quickly. At that moment, Jerome's hand flew right over the animal. Suddenly, she grabbed the bull by the horns and pinned him to the ground. Jerome said she would be able to launch not only her hands, but also various other parts of her body. The hand continued to press the ram to the ground. The men were surprised that the girl held the ram they had failed to hold with her left hand. Moreover, the girl did it automatically. This is very cool, and here he is, a hero who raised 100. The girl smiled and said that the men praised her. However, the master is capable of many things, not relying on the characteristics of the race. The girl says that he is even more amazing. Then she asked everyone to look away. The men looked to the side and saw something incredible. Eisen walked slowly along the path, and next to him was a whole herd of sheep which also followed him. He sometimes called the animals to walk next to him. The man ran up to Eisen. The young man called David by name and said that by now he had brought most of the rams. The man said in surprise that he had brought them. They had 6 that had turned white, and they were excited because the young man had been able to calm them down. The young man asked if the man really wanted to know about it. He had just talked to them, and that was it. David said that this could not be, because they could not contain all this excitement of the animals. Suddenly they are interrupted by men who call for the boss, and apologizing, say that one of their sheep ran towards them. David was surprised because this ram is their leader. He is the healthiest of all that the man has seen. He tells Mr. Eisen that they will be in trouble if they do not get out of the way right now. Eisen smiles and tells the man not to interfere because he will do everything now. The man, frightened, tells the young man to wait. Eisen steps forward and tells David to herd the sheep so that they do not interfere with him. At that moment, the ram ran straight towards the young man. Eisen says that the leader kindly runs to him. Taking advantage of this chance, it will be easy to calm him down. David noticed that Eisen had placed his staff on the ground and what he was planning. At that moment, the young man stood up and, smiling, said that the first thing he would do was slow down the leader. Otherwise, it would be dangerous. The animal was rushing straight at the young man. Eisen braced himself and took a fighting stance, ready to take the ram's blow. At one point, the young man grabbed the ram by its horns, and bending over, he threw the animal into the air. Smiling, the young man wishes him to admire the blue sky. The animal fell to the ground on its back, shaking everything nearby. The men were very surprised. David placed his hands on his hips and asked if Mr. Eisen had really just thrown a metal ram over his shoulder. The other man said that there was no doubt about it. That heavy beast, weighing as much as a metal ingot, was what Eisen had just thrown. The ram lay on the ground and could not get up. He only cried out pitifully. David was surprised to hear that the ram had been turned upside down, and it seemed to have suffered no damage. He asked if the ram had really escaped all damage from hitting the ground. Durham approached David and said that this was the master's fighting style. She also laughed and asked the man if it was really amazing. David laughed and said that he, having seen it with his own eyes, understood the horror of Eisen, although he heard about it from Ro. He had not seen such movements even in warriors specially trained in close combat. Durham laughed and said that it was natural. The master taught them fighting skills. The girl asks Rin and asks if she really learned something from him too. The girl replied that it was exactly like that. She wanted to learn many things, but teacher Eisen had only taught him the art of self-defense so far. David laughed, scratched his head and said that it was self-defense. He then looked at Eisen's back and asked if this was really the master of heroes. At that moment, Eisen walked straight towards the metal rams and told them to calm down. He chuckled and asked if they were really surprised that he had thrown their leader over his shoulder. Then he noticed the animals' confusion. The young man smiled and told them to relax and stop moving, and then listened to what he was saying. At that moment, an aura began to shine around him. All the metal rams felt some strange aura. They immediately turned their attention to the young man. Suddenly, some dark haze disappeared from their bodies. All the people were incredibly surprised that Eisen had dealt with so many metal rams at once. The animals themselves immediately calmed down. David couldn't utter a word. He went up to Eisen and asked him what it was all about. He asked Mr. Eisen what he had done. Eisen smiled and asked what David was talking about. It was word magic just like his. He simply spoke to them, infusing magic into the words. David smiled nervously and folded his arms across his chest. He said that Eisen's word magic was strange, as the boy spoke for quite a long time. Word magic is mainly used for short words. However, to speak for so long, putting magic into everything and controlling it. This is, apparently, the power of a skilled prophet. Eisen smiled and turned to David, saying that he had basically gathered all the rams in the area. David agreed and said that since everyone was gathered, he would go and call the beaters. Eisen thanks the man for his help. He says he will try to ask the animals why they suddenly became excited. David told the young man that they can talk to the Magwari. He hopes for the young man's help. Meanwhile, on a property in the suburbs of a market town, Ro looked at an abandoned mansion and said that this was the mansion they needed. He asked the other men if they were ready. The men agreed and asked the man to start. Ro thinks that everyone here is pretending to be a loader, but in reality, they are soldiers under the protection of Zamir Uzza. They were ordered to secretly enter the building, examine it, and if they found anything, capture the researchers. If things got serious, the soldiers would cover for the young man. A group of people enter the threshold of a mansion. Ro uses the ring and knocks on the door. He thinks about knocking 4 times, then 3 more times. According to the previous merchant, this is the signal. The young man smiles and greets, saying that the owners are being disturbed by the wholesale food company. He has come to deliver food to them. There was a silence, but then the door was opened by a thin man who looked very gloomy. He was silent. Ro thought that everything was as he had been told. This man was undoubtedly a researcher, but he knew nothing. The young man apologized and asked the man if he really owned this mansion. The man agreed and said that Ro was not the one who usually came. He asked what happened to the previous salesman. Ro said that the previous salesman was not feeling well today and could not come to work because of illness. However, this delivery had to be made today at any cost. Therefore, the seller asked him, a friend who works in the same company, to replace him. He has a letter of apology with him, as well as a document about the replacement of the courier. He hands over the paper and says that if the man wants to, he can take a look. The man snatches the paper from Ro's hands. The man agrees and says that it is indeed the handwriting of the previous seller, and the document appears to be genuine. The man is silent and then says that they really need food as supplies are running low. He says that the young man can come in. Ro smiles and thanks the owner of the mansion. He then calls his henchman with his finger and tells the gentleman to bring the food inside the mansion. They go inside the room. The man tells the movers to leave the load in the room. When they are finished, they must leave. Ro replies that he understood the man, then the owner of the mansion leaves. Ro thinks that this is not quite what he heard. He was supposed to receive the cargo in the hallway, so why did he let them in? The man is very careless. However, the windows he saw along the way were boarded up, which means the man is wary of something. For now, Ro can't figure out if the man is good or bad. Then a man approaches Ro. Ro agrees and says that they just got rid of extra eyes. The boy then uses the demonic eye of selection, and his eye changes color. Ro looks around the room and suddenly notices a gap in the corner of the room. The young man says that there seems to be a secret door here. It seems to be the kind that opens after a certain amount of magic is infused. The man asks Ro if he can open it. They don't mind if the city government is responsible. Ro smiles and says of course he can open it. It would be a shame if they didn't find anything. The boy touches the wall with his hand and opens the door. The man is surprised and says that the door opened, which is to be expected from Ro. Ro said that he had not encountered such devices before. Suddenly they heard some whining and rustling, and looking into the room they were very surprised. Inside were numerous human skeletons, as well as a huge dead ram. The crunching and chewing sounds continued to echo throughout the room. Ro smiled nervously and said that they had seen something they wished they hadn't. At that moment, a huge metal ram was being devoured by a monstrous monster. The men continued to stare at the animal. The young man told Ro to be careful because it was a magwar. Ro replied that it had become like that because it had eaten a metal sheep that had turned metal. Suddenly, Ro noticed something shining under the sheep's body. Ro noticed the writing on the metal sheep's tag. Ro thought about how the collar belonged to a sheep in the pasture that David was responsible for. Then another man said that maybe those bones in the corner weren't human. At this moment, the owner of the mansion said that the enticed food saw something extra. Ro was scared and thought about the researcher standing in front of him. This room, it turns out, is connected to the other rooms. They have already confirmed that he is keeping magware without permission. Ro understands that he needs to grab this man. Ro held out his hand and asked if there really were bones of metal sheep and people there. The man asks if Ro really said food. He asks so what? Ro smiles nervously and asks if the man really said food. The man replies that it's a hassle to just drag one sheep from the pasture at a time. He spent a lot of time feeding them, until he realized that it was easier to drag people in and feed them. To be honest, his thinking problems are his worst enemy. Everyone was very surprised. Then the man approached the shadow wolf. He said that if he didn't eat more, there wouldn't be enough mana for that cute girl, so he might as well eat them. The shadow wolf raised his head and looked at his supposed letter with a menacing look. The man continued and said that the food had finally arrived. So the monster can have a lot of fun. Then the wolf rushed straight at Ro. The young man at that moment was frightened and took the talisman out of his pocket. He noticed the talisman and summoned a magic shield right into the wolf. A huge wall appeared right in front of the shadow wolf. Then the wolf crashed straight into the magical wall. Ro thought about the magic item he had hidden for self-defense. The boy shouted at the other men to act now. Then the baskets of food fell to the ground. The next moment the men took out their weapons and prepared for battle. They surrounded the huge shadow wolf and began to attack it. The man hit the shadow wolf with his sword and said it was as hard as a rock. The other man raised his hammer and shouted for everyone to get out of the way. He hits the wolf on the head and it falls to the ground, unconscious. The man said that the wolf seems to be strong because it is made entirely of magic. The young man replied that the wolf had managed to scratch this strong magic shield. He had plenty of strength. Then he came to his senses and asked where the explorer had gone. Ro smiled and told the gentleman that they needed to move on. He saw the explorer running into the room. He thought that he would be of little use in a fight, so he looked around. After a while, they come to the end of the room and see a huge door there. Ro said that there must be a researcher behind this massive door. The other man asked what they were going to do. Since they confirmed the crime, they should go back and report it. It will be safer that way, so it is not a fact that there are no wolves left. Ro says he thinks the same, if only they will let them go. Then they return to the main room. The boy tries to open the door, but he can't open it because the door was sealed with magic. Ro said that the walls had destruction resistance magic cast on them, so it looks like they're frozen. So all they can do is catch the criminal. After a while, the men return to the huge door. The man says he is going to open the door now. Ro tells the man to be careful. Ro used the demonic eye of selection and says that he can't see any traces of magic. But he can't see the material traps that recognize magic with the eyes. The man opens the door slightly and suddenly hears a man's voice saying that the guests should not be so afraid, because the merchants may come in. The men enter the room. The researcher asks if they really defeated that wolf. In fact, it had high attack ability but low intelligence, so the group was enough for it. The man is standing on some black seal. He says that this phantom wolf was made of mana. He can make many more of these, so he doesn't care. Anyway, he asks why they are here, which he completely forgot to ask. Ro says they are here to question him about his research. If his actions could harm the city, then they are forced to stop him, as representatives of the Major's army, and they have witnessed such actions. The researcher asks if it is really because of the feeding, although it could be because of the wolf's upbringing. So they came to force him to follow an absurd rule using cruelty. He passes the eye and thinks that this is good. His work here is already done because he is finished with the cultivation. He doesn't need anything else. The man agrees with him and says that they need to arrest him quickly. Ro asks them to stop. He uses his eye again and says that there is something on the wall right behind the researcher. At this point, the man, using magic, removes the wall and tells the guests that they must go this way. Everyone was very surprised when they saw that the wall was made of illusion magic. He was hiding his escape route behind this wall. The researcher, grinning, asked about the escape and said that it was absurd. Ro asked the other men to stop, because there was something on the other side of the wall. Suddenly, a huge shadow wolf appeared next to the researcher. The man was surprised that they were magical beasts, but they were somehow huge. Another young man said that this black fog could not be miasma. Ro could not believe his eyes. He did not understand what kind of wolf it was. The researcher said that this is why they are absolute fools, because it is not just a wolf. The enormous effort he put into raising it and its evolution after eating the flesh of an evil god turned it into a Fenrir of the abyss. Ro shouted that it was dangerous to grow something like that. The researcher's actions could cause great risks to the city. The researcher did not turn to the men and asked what happened. It was, but he actually managed to grow it. Ro doesn't understand what the man is talking about. Then the researcher said that the Fenrir of the abyss should merge with him, namely with his beautiful body. Then the Fenrir of the abyss opens its mouth and eats the researcher. Everyone was very surprised and assumed that he had simply killed himself. Ro said that he had not killed himself. It turns out that the explorer wasn't just eaten. He's now inside the abyssal Fenrir and is connecting with it. Suddenly the wolf's eyes open and an evil laugh is heard from his mouth. The man says that this is a success and his fusion is complete. All this is true. The body of the beast that has absorbed divine powers is simply superb. The men stood there and couldn't believe their eyes. The young man asked the men if that wasn't the voice of the explorer coming straight from the mouth of the abyssal Fenrir. He didn't understand what was happening. The man said that young guards like the boy did not know about it. It was a fusion with a magical beast. However, this technique was considered forgotten after the battle with the evil god. The researcher interrupted them and said that looking down on other people was really nice. Then he called people stupid. He asks if the technique of the beautiful degree has really forgotten. There was no chance. Ro said that he did not know how to use it. It seems that the researcher has unmistakably transferred himself into the body of a wolf. The researcher asks about self-transfer, but nothing of the sort. It's called evolution, but he thinks that stupid people like them are prone to stupidity. He looked up and said that he finally understood his master, and that this was all certainly real. The young soldier did not understand what the researcher was doing at all. Fenrir laughed and realized that the man could not hear it. Then he realized that only he could hear the voice. The male warrior asked what voice the researcher was talking about. Fenrir laughed and then spoke about the destruction of the city that they did, destroying humanity to kill and destroy. He hears the voice of his master, and that is why he will do everything. The researcher then summons the shadow wolves. Then several shadow wolves appear from some strange aura. The creatures gradually took on the features of predators. Ro thinks that they can't defeat so many shadow wolves. The young man tries to retreat. The researcher in the body of a Fenrir shouted that he would destroy all men. He calls upon the flaming breath. Ro realizes that things are bad. He sees a huge amount of mana and realizes that the Fenrir of the abyss is attacking. The monster then releases a huge ball of mana from its mouth. At this time, two people were standing outside. The dark-haired young man said that it had been a long time since they had left. The other man agreed. He asked if perhaps they should stop guarding and go inside. The dark-haired youth agreed and said that they should go in. Suddenly, a huge explosion occurs, which destroys half of the roof of the mansion. This huge explosion was heard throughout the entire area. People started coming out of their houses as they tried to figure out what was going on. The elf man asked what was going on there. Someone shouted for them to stop playing merchants and grab their weapons from the convoy. They had to prepare for battle. The mansion began to burn. At that moment, men came out of the building. Ro was coughing and was very badly injured. The dark-haired young man exhaled and said that they were back. Another man asked what was going on here. The man shouted that a pack of magical wolves was approaching. Everyone was very surprised. He continued and ordered the residents to be evacuated immediately because there would be a battle here. They immediately began to evacuate every single person. The man told Master Ro that he had saved them all. If it weren't for him, they would have probably all died. Ro laughed helplessly and thought about how he had managed to make a magical defense. The angle of the wall was sharp. It did not block the attack, but it was able to repel it. The man told Master Ru to leave here because now this battle was on them. However, Ru refused. He said that this breath was strange. It completely ignored the protective magic that surrounded the walls, otherwise they could easily escape. The man replied that they needed a magic field. Ro adjusted his glasses and said that he would fight on their side. The man smiled. Then a voice was heard saying that the shadow wolves had arrived. The man said they had arrived. We needed to use the heavy weapons from the convoy, then split into pairs and cover each other. A huge Fenrir peered out from the dark flames. Then, without having time to catch his breath, he climbed onto the roof of his mansion. He smiles and says that he is not used to it yet. He still can't feel some parts, but it is still a great and pleasant body that he likes very much. He looks around the city and says that he will destroy this entire city. This is not a real city made by people. He looks at the soldiers fighting the shadow wolves and says that they are perfect for starting a panic. At this point, the men were fighting the shadow wolves. The man with the Molotov said that they should hold out until reinforcements arrived. The other men say that everything is fine and they will be able to win. Suddenly, the Fenrir of the abyss is heard giving a command and calling the shadow wolves. At this moment, from the shadow of any object, be it the shadow of a house or the shadow of a cart, many shadow wolves appear. The shadow wolves gather together and surround the abyssal Fenrir. Fenrir says that this is very interesting. He can summon as many of these wolves as he wants, and did people not know about it? He asks them to show how much they have endured. The young man with dark hair says that they multiply very quickly. Ro said they could take it all. The men agreed and got into a fighting stance. Thus the battle continued. After a while, Ro was already exhausted. He thought about how it happened so quickly, and it seemed like they had only been fighting for an hour. He wondered if that was true. Maybe they had been fighting for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. This suburb of the city was far from the army, and how much longer would they have to hold out? At this moment, the Abyssal Fenrir used Thunder Breath. Ro shouted that he was attacking again, so they needed to close. Then he used a magic barrier. The thunderous breath of the Abyssal Fenrir crashes straight into the magical barrier that Ro created. However, the thunderous discharges destroyed the magical barrier. Ro was struck by lightning. The man came up to him, put his hand on the boy's shoulder, and asked if he was okay. Ro slowly agreed. He adjusted his glasses and said that he was just a little bit electrocuted. One shock, but he was pierced by very strong magic. Using his special vision, he saw clumps of mana gathering in his mouth. The problem is that he only has 2 spells left, and things are getting worse and worse. Ro's legs gave way, but a man caught him and told Ro not to force himself, because he was not a warrior. However, Ro says that if he cannot force himself now, what will he be like in the future? The young man says that this city, their company, someone is trying to destroy the city right before their eyes. He admits that he loves this city very much. That is why he will spare no effort for what he loves. He swears that he will fight to the end. Abyssal Fenrir agrees and says that his mana is burning and he is getting used to this body, so he suggests ending this whole game. He tells the Shadow Wolves that it is time to get serious. He ordered the Shadow Wolves to attack the people together and finish them off. The wolves went on the attack and the soldiers tried to stop them. The Fenrir then jumps onto the roof of the building and looks around. Ro suddenly notices something. Fenrir looks around and says that they will try it. Ro understands that the researcher really wants to use the breath for the entire city, and at the same time from 2 different heads. Suddenly, Ro throws down 2 of his talismans. Fenrir uses Blizzard Breath and Thunder Breath at the same time. He fires attack beams, but they are blocked by the magical barriers that Ro released. Everyone was very surprised, including the Fenrir of the Abyss. The monster said that it was useless. Ro was happy at this moment because he was able to protect the city. Suddenly, a chopped shadow wolf flies into him. The blow causes the young man to fall to the ground and cover his face with his hand. Suddenly, a man calls him. Ro opens his face to see a shadow wolf leaping at him, baring its teeth. Ro realizes that his defenses are exhausted. However, he shouts that he has decided to fight to the end. Ro goes hand-to-hand against the shadow wolf. At that moment, he hears a familiar voice that says that Ro has uttered magnificent revolutionary words. The young man is very surprised. At that moment, Eisen appears and strikes the shadow wolf with his staff. He smiles as he looks at Ro, who is surprised to see Mr. Eisen. Ro came to his senses and said that it seemed like they were all on time. At that moment, Dairam and Rin appeared next to Eisen. Abyssal Fenrir noticed Eisen, Durom, and Rin and thought that they were reinforcements. At that moment, Ro thanked Eisen, to which the youth replied that it was nothing. Eisen smiled and said that he was the one who was asked to save Ro in the first place, and he was the one. Eisen then pointed at David, who was already running towards them. The man smiled and said that they were right on time. Ro smiled that the man was there too and then asked him why he was there. David said he came back as soon as he sensed something was wrong. Mr. Eisen heard his voice during the battle. Everything here looks very terrible. Eisen then turned to Ro and said that if he could speak, could he explain the situation to him? Ro said, agreeing that he didn't even know where to begin. He then tells of a man who studies divine evil who raised a huge evil wolf. The wolf evolved into the Fenrir of the Abyss, which ate the city, and he merged with it. Eisen and David looked at each other. Eisen then said that it seemed like it was an insanely dangerous criminal hiding. Fenrir thought that this guy was very strange. For some reason, when he looked at him, he felt very uneasy. Eisen says the situation is clear to him. As planned, Ro and the soldiers are to retreat while he deals with the 3-headed monster. Durom smiles and says she understands, then she suggests the master leave everything to them. Ren says they will protect them while they retreat. Eisen smiles and says that they will begin then. He does not know how it will all end, arrest or murder, but he will fight for the city to the end. The man tries to argue, but is stopped by Ren, who asks all the soldiers to retreat and leave the rest to them. Abyssal Fenrir says that he will catch them before they all escape. He orders the Shadow Wolves to attack. Then Durom, taking her tools, told Ren that she could go ahead and protect the soldiers and take them to safety, and she would take care of the Shadow Wolves. If they interfere with the master's plan, she will be displeased, so she should tear them apart. Ren was surprised and asked Durom if she really would fight with this instrument. Then a huge number of Shadow Wolves rush straight towards Durom. The girl smirks and says that unfortunately it is not a tool. A Shadow Wolf jumps on her, but suddenly it is cut to pieces. Ren is surprised. Instead of a violin bow, a beautiful sword appears. Durome says that she would not like to dirty it too much because she usually uses it as a bow. Ren asked Durome if the girl had really made the bow from an enemy weapon. The girl smiled and said that it was its original form. Then a whole pack of shadow wolves appeared in front of Durome held her violin out in front of her and the instrument began to glow. The girl used the spell to deploy the orchestra and its magical form. Suddenly, the violin transformed into something that looked like a shield. Ren was surprised that it was another weapon. Durome smiled and said it was simple. She was an automaton, so her body was filled with weapons. She uses the magical form of fire and releases magical fire cores from the former violin. She defeats a whole pack of shadow wolves. Ren said that it was simply incredible. Durome agrees and says that this ability is unpleasant for people. That is why he transforms it into the form of an instrument. The girl asks what it is like because it is one of her secrets. She turns to Ren and asks the girl if she is scared. Ren smiles and says she thinks it's super cool. Durome is surprised, then smiles and starts laughing. The girl says she is very happy because Ren says the same thing as the other students. The bodies of the wolves dissolved in the bright rays of the sun after Durome attacked them. The girl said that she also enjoyed the praise of the master. It motivated the girl even more to protect people. Ren smiled and said that was what Sensei said. Durome laughs and says that he said that while looking at her and even stroking her head. These are certainly not the best words she has ever spoken, but if they help protect people's smiles, they are good in their own way. At that moment, another pack of shadow wolves was heading straight for the girls. Durome asked if they should continue then. She used one of her orchestra's skills. She ordered all the wolves to listen to it. Eisen was already on the roof of the building and stood right in front of the Abyssal Fenrir. The Abyssal Fenrir called the youth a fool and said that he understood everything. The voice told him that the youth was one of those who had cut up their master and driven away their deity. Fenrir called the prophet Eisen. Eisen silently watched Fenrir. He then replied with a serious expression that he had never met him before. The Fenrir of the Abyss replied that he could feel all the master's hatred for the youth through blood and flesh. The pupils of the Abyssal Fenrir's eyes dilate, and he speaks of absorbing the prophet Eisen. The monster then uses thunder breath again and directs it straight at the boy. Eisen expresses anger and says that he does not want to see the city destroyed anymore. He begins to cast a spell, calling on his hands to absorb it and block it. And they let out like a roar. The youth staff comes forward and absorbs the sphere of thunderous breath. Fenrir of the Abyss said that he was a fool because his weapon would be destroyed and he would lose. However, the staff absorbs all the power of the thunder breath. Fenrir of the Abyss is surprised and continues to look at the staff, which has almost completely absorbed the energy. Abyssal Fenrir couldn't believe that the boy blocked his attack. Eisen smiles and says that this is a special weapon and the best of its kind. He looks at his staff and sighs, saying that it is a great weapon. It allows the young man to see many things, and it also agrees with his desire to protect this city from destruction. The Fenrir of the Abyss grins and asks what's wrong. He lunges straight at the boy and shouts that he'll just hit him harder. The monster then raises his paw and prepares to attack. Eisen thought it was too slow and then rushed straight towards the boy. Abyssal Fenrir thought that the boy was able to dodge his attack. At this point, the young man turns around and holds his sword in his other hand. He split his staff and the other half became a sword. Fenrir of the Abyss said that it was useless. He was a being endowed with divine power, but he was still weaker. Fenrir of the Abyss smirks and tells the boy not to think he can kill him with a normal blade. Eisen smiles and says that it is useless to cut him, so he will not do it. During the last war, he fought creatures like the monster until he lost his pulse. The Fenrir of the Abyss smirks and tells him to have this then. The monster then uses his thunderbolt again to launch it at the boy again. At this moment, the young man who stood right in front of the monster disappears. The Fenrir of the Abyss does not understand where he went, and maybe he just ran away. However, a young man suddenly appears and hits the Abyssal Fenrir right on the head, which is preparing to attack with thunder lightning. At this moment, the lightning that was in the teeth of the Abyssal Fenrir bursts in. The monster's head explodes, and Eisen at that moment jumps to the side and turning around says that if the researcher does not know what to say, then he should simply close his mouth. Fenrir of the Abyss was very surprised. He was angry because his neck was injured by an ordinary person. His body couldn't bear the weight and he fell off the roof and onto the ground. Eisen stood on the edge of the roof and looked down at the monster. He said that he thought so. One head is not enough to destroy one core. A normal Fenrir would have been defeated already. Deep in the mouth of the Fenrir, when it attacked with its breath, a dark sphere was visible, the core. With 3 heads, each should have 1. The young man jumps off the roof and thinks that until he destroys every core, his body will continue to regenerate. At this moment, the head of the Abyss Fenrir uses the Blizzard Breath skill and directs it towards the youth. However, Eisen manages to dodge to the side. The second head of the Abyssal Fenrir was charging another skill. The next moment, the Abyssal Fenrir used a flame breath, which exploded upon touching the ground. Eisen thought that the more he had to fight him, the more damage he would cause to the city. He had to deal with him as quickly as possible. Fenrir of the Abyss charges up his next attacks and says that even if he has to sacrifice his body, he will kill Eisen. The young man thinks that attacking both cores will be the fastest way. He agrees and tells himself that he has decided what to do. Eisen gets into a fighting stance. He addresses the hellish Fenrir and says that these will be the last words he will ever say to him. He begins to use the skill, calling on his body to act intensely quickly. And then burn and burn, a strange aura hovers around his body. At this moment, the Abyssal Fenrir uses magic through both heads at once. On one side there is a fire breath and on the other side a frost breath. The attack is directed straight at the young man. In an instant, the Abyssal Fenrir sees something unusual. Eisen stands in a combat position and points his weapon straight ahead, cutting through two types of breath and remaining unharmed. Then Fenrir saw the blue flames that surrounded the boy's body. He could not understand why this blue flame was scattering his breath. Eisen smiled and said that this mana flame was made real by his mana and magic spells. In addition, this fire is not only used for defense. Eisen puts on a serious face and summons scorching flames to blast and pierce his enemies. The youth makes a dash forward, through the fiery and icy breath of the Abyssal Fenrir. Eisen rushed straight at the youth and called upon Ardur's justice. Abyssal Fenrir continued to use his breath, but suddenly blue flames flashed between his heads. The monster had already come to his senses, but his head was already floating in the air at that moment. The young man landed on the ground and smiled. At that moment, the shadow wolves were rushing straight towards Ren. The girl did not show any emotion on her face, but something began to happen. The men were delighted and looked back and said that the shadow wolves were disappearing. At that moment, black smoke was flying out from where the shadow wolves had been standing. The warriors began to approach the burning corpse of the Abyssal Fenrir, next to which Eisen stood. Ro was surprised and said that this was incredible power. David agreed and said that he didn't think Lady Durham's 100 heroes were that strong, but Master Eisen is on a whole other level. Ro says that despite being so strong, he is usually very quiet and a very good listener. A man from the guards approaches Eisen and says that this means he is called a prophet or teacher of 100 heroes. Just as everyone was beginning to rejoice in the victory, Deputy Mayor Woods, soldiers and firefighters appeared. The observation tower of the city center noticed the incident and troops rushed to the scene. The man asked if they really meant to say that the magical beast had already been defeated, and if it really was a hellish Fenrir. When they had explained everything about the situation and the circumstances, they ended up receiving money and public gratitude. The man said that he could not thank the young man enough for saving this city. The award ceremony took place that same day, and after they took their earnings to celebrate their victory and the completion of the task, the Kodadama door organized an evening feast. And based on what the young man heard, Ro provided a report on the search of the researcher's home. Almost all the papers were burned. They found only 5 metal sheep collars. At this point, the incident with the metal sheep was over, and they gave themselves over entirely to the feast and celebration. After that, while they were shopping and helping with the city's restoration, the days they spent in the trading city flew by. Then, the day before his training, the city's leader was scheduled to return. The man apologized sincerely to Mr. Eisen and said that he had come there to inform the young man that the mayor's schedule had changed. Eisen asked if his return date had really been moved up. The man agreed and added that it was because one of the chief's messengers had returned today and delivered a message. The conference at the nearby magical city had been postponed, so it looked like he would be stuck there for a few more days. The man said he was deeply sorry. Eisen said he had nothing to apologize for. He wanted to at least convey information about the incident, but it didn't work out. Eisen thought about the magical beast appearing in the city when the mayor was away on business. If such information leaked out, no one would be able to remain calm. Eisen asks if he can then go to the magical city and give him the information himself. The man is surprised. He asks if Master Eisen really wants to go to the magical city. The boy agrees and says that he has already spent enough time in this city. The man says that he would be happy to entrust this matter to a trusted person like Mr. Eisen. But is it okay for a prophet to do such things? Eisen smiles and replies that he was planning to visit the magical city anyway, so delivering the message wouldn't be a problem. It would be problematic if they didn't meet. Eisen and the man shake hands, and the man says that in that case he will rely on Master Eisen. Thus, the young man decides to go to the magical city. The next day, Jerome and Ren stand before the southern gate. Jerome said that their journey with the master and Ren was finally beginning. She was looking forward to it. Eisen replied that he also enjoyed traveling in a large company. Ren agreed. Eisen says that Mr. Woods said that he would leave the letter and everything necessary here, but he is surprised by what he sees in front of him. Ren asks what kind of carriage is between them. The coachman was Ro, who wished the trio a good morning and said that it had been a long time since the celebration. Eisen asked Ro why he was there. The young man replied that, in fact, he had accepted the mission of transporting Mr. Eisen to a neighboring city from the deputy mayor. They called for someone who was familiar with Mr. Eisen's circumstances and was willing to follow him, in other words, Ro, although he would have volunteered himself. Eisen asked if the young man really did such a job. Ru says it's because he doesn't want to be a merchant that he doesn't pay his debts. Eisen has saved him many times. As a member of the Kodadama door and a respected person, he thinks he'll be useful. Eisen replies that he sees that Ru is really worried about this, so he thanks the young man. Ru says that the most considerate one here is Mr. Eisen. He proved it even before he arrived at the trading city. Then he asks everyone to come inside. Unlike the previous one, this carriage is adapted for comfort and also has a very luxurious interior. Durham smiles and says that it has been a while since she spent time talking while traveling, so she is looking forward to it. Eisen agrees and says that even if they always talk while traveling, he is still looking forward to it. Ren agrees with the young man and adds that it is her first time, so she is really excited about the journey. Ro smiles and says that it seems like everyone is settled. Then they set off. A few days later, Durham leaned out the window and shouted to Eisen to look where she was pointing. She said that it looked like that fortress was also a landmark. They say there was a beautiful view of the plain from there. Eisen looks at the fortress and says that it is probably true. This fortress served well during the war. Ro says that's exactly right. Buildings from that era were strong and durable, so they could be used for a variety of purposes. Eisen says that this way he can learn about everything, just passing by, which is better than a regular walk. Ren says that is true because this way they can admire the scenery. Duran says that any ride with the master is good. Eisen turns to Ro and thanks him for driving the carriage so carefully. The young man replies that it is his job, and that carefulness is just one of the joys of riding in a carriage. Eisen replies that they still use it, at least for that they can be thankful. Ro says that Eisen is a sucker for compliments. In that case, he is glad. Durham says that she has understood something. The master praises even for trifles because it gives them strength to work even better. Ren adds that it was the same in another world. A teacher praised her for simply answering a letter. Ro smiles and says that they are very grateful for that. Eisen thinks about what they are talking about. If someone does a good job, it is only natural to praise them for it. Eisen says that they should return to the conversation. Thanks to Ro, they have seen a lot of places, and he realized how much fun it can be. Ro replies that he is glad that the boys liked it. The shipbuilding industry is also developing now. In the last 10 years, many steamships have appeared. There are even huge ships that look like cities and are suitable for travel. Eisen thinks that one of the students planned a ship of this shape. Durham says that she is ready to go to the ends of the earth with the gentleman. And during this time, they have received so much inspiration that she is ready to write a song. They then pass by a large body of water. Eisen replies that the view of the mountains is simply beautiful. Ro agrees and adds that the mountains are one of the attractions located near the City of Magic. They are called the Mader Mountains. The flora and fauna are different from other mountains. There are many rare species. The mountain trails are maintained, so it is a great place for climbers. Thanks to the cooperation of the 100 heroes, the path was quickly opened. Durham says that she heard about it too. Ro adds that one of the heroes paved the path so that people could cross the mountains. There is also a highway in the mountains. Most of the systems they use were created by Eisen's students, and they help them a lot. Eisen says that means the guys are doing their best. Suddenly, the boy notices something. He tells Ro that there are demons ahead, about 4 lizard men. Ro doesn't understand where they are. Eisen points his finger and says that they are far away. Ro picks up the binoculars and looks into the distance. He notices demons there. He says that at this distance they are clearly visible despite their coloring. They have adapted well, but it is simply impossible not to notice them. Sure, they are cruel, but do they really attack people? Ro agrees and says that while it may not be common, he has seen a few ads about attacks on merchants. At least there were no ads about friendship with them. Ren tells the teacher that there seems to be something wrong with them. Eisen says that he sees it, which looks like miasma. Ro looks through binoculars and says that it is true. Miasma is swirling around the demon llamas. Eisen adds that they probably tasted demon flesh, which is why they became enraged. If they leave them, they will attack someone. He smiles and says it's time to finish them off. Ro asks the boy if he's sure. Eisen agrees and says it's dangerous to leave them wandering along the road. He asks to stop the cart when they get close. Eisen jumps out of the cart. Ren offers the teacher to go with them. Durham agrees and says that she will go too. Eisen tells the girls that they can go together. After some time, the young man noticed that the demons did not even notice him and did not attack him. Then he sees a glow between the demons and realizes it's a fox. Ren says that judging by the flames, it's a fire fox. Eisen says it's some kind of demon, but it's still a baby. Suddenly, the lizard rushes towards the fox and kicks him aside. The fox flies away and stands on its paws, frightened. The demon lizards looked at the fox and drool flowed from their jaws. Ren asks if it's okay for demons to fight. Eisen agrees, but he says something is wrong. At this point, the lizard kicks rocks at the fox, which fly straight at him. Eisen thinks that hunting is not part of growing up. However, he understands that the lizards are simply mocking the fox. This behavior must be caused by the demon's influence on their minds. Eisen says that something is definitely wrong. Suddenly, Eisen distracts the lizard men and orders them to stop. The lizard men turn their attention to Eisen, Duran, and Ren. Eisen tells the lizard men that they have eaten the flesh of a demon and are now under the influence of the miasma that swirls around them. However, maybe there is another reason for their behavior, he would ask, but it seems that he will not be able to do so. The lizards headed straight for the young man. He sighs and says that the monsters won't respond, so there is no choice. He opens his eyes and says he will kill them. Suddenly, something flies into the left and right lizards. Ren says that the right lizard has been eliminated, and Durham adds that the left one has been eliminated in the same way. Eisen agrees. He then splits the staff and cuts the rest of the lizards. Eisen smiles and says that he is finished too. Ren says to be on guard just in case. Durham adds that she will look to see if anyone else has miasma. Eisen says that he does not feel miasma, but the girls should still look around. Then Ro arrives on a cart and says that it was a great job and the boy is an excellent swordsman. Eisen says that their movements were predictable. He also looks at the wounded fox and tells Ro that he is more concerned about this fox. Ro also looked at the fox cub and said that it looked like he was seriously injured. Eisen says that he sees it, but he needs to be cured. The young man decides to approach the fox, but he, frightened, bursts into flames. Ro says it's not a good idea to touch him. Eisen adds that such foxes tend to flare up in the heat of emotion. Ro adds that adults are capable of burning down an entire house. Even if this fox is still a cub, they won't be able to get close to him. Eisen says it looks like that, but he'll starve to death. Eisen smiles and asks Ro if he has a recovery potion. Ro is surprised and says that they are in the carriage. Ro says that they are for humans and unicorns, but should he give them to a fox? For each demon, there are ingredients that are effective and ineffective, but there are also some that would be too much. Eisen points to 2 potions and says that they will do. Ro approaches the carriage and hands Eisen 2 potions, adding that he prepared them especially for the trip. Eisen says you can tell their good quality at a glance. Ro adds that's because he bought them from a good place and then asks how they use them. Eisen takes the bottles and says that they use them as usual. He offers to talk to the fox for a bit with these medicines. Ro is surprised and asks if he's really going to talk to the medicine. Eisen says, referring to the recovery potions to help this kid. He looks at them and asks if they would like to help. First, he asks the potions to tell him about their ingredients. The liquid in the bottle begins to bubble. Ro asks if Eisen is really talking to them. The boy thanks them and says it's for the humans. He gives 1 bottle to Ro and says he's returning it. Eisen looks at the bottle and says that it contains blue belladonna and lake onion. The boy asks the lake onion if it can come out. Suddenly, the water began to bubble and spill out of the bottle. Ro noticed that her color and the composition of her magic power had changed. Eisen agreed and said that the potion now had a smooth texture, something that is made to heal others with its determination, so it is a good potion. He thanks the potion for helping him. Now this little one will be fine. He looks at the fox cub and says that now is the time to apply the medicine. The boy approaches the fox. Ro thinks that the beast is still cautious and the bleeding only increases and how Eisen is going to approach him. Eisen then grabs the burning fox cub. Ro gets very scared and then Eisen tells him that everything is fine. He turns to the little fox and tells him that he will be fine too, so the young man tells him not to worry. The little fox whined helplessly and his flame began to fade. The young man strokes the fox and calls him a good baby. Ro runs up to Eisen and asks about the fire. Eisen tells Ro not to worry since he is protected. Instead, he asks Ro to take a potion to cure the fox cub. Ro brings the boy a potion. Eisen takes the potion and says that they will pour it out slowly. The boy pours the potion from the bottle directly onto the fox's wound. Then the wounds began to disappear from the fox's body. Ro is surprised because he was cured immediately. Human potions are so effective, it's a whole new level. He asks Eisen if he's ever made anything like this. Eisen says he made the potion by accident. Just combined ingredients that would work with fire foxes. The one who made the medicine itself is amazing. Ro replies that he understands, but one cannot do something like that without knowing what is effective for foxes. Eisen replies that he once had the honor of treating the demonic beast lord along with the disciples. Ro says it's amazing that the boy can do something like that. Eisen says he's far from a professional. He then starts petting the fox, who starts purring in response. Eisen asks the fox if he is really surprised that the wound healed. He then asks if there is really a pattern or a wound on his back. He decides to bandage the wound just in case. Then he bandages the fox and puts it on the ground. The animal is very surprised and starts jumping. Ro guessed that he seemed very happy. Ro asked Eisen if he really wasn't burned. The young man says that the clothes are burnt, but there are no injuries. There is magic on them that protects his body. Ro says that since it's burnt, why not replace it with another one? Eisen replies that there is nothing to worry about, because these clothes will be restored over time. Ro examines her with his eye and says that the magic is activated by the state of the clothes and can only be felt during recovery. Eisen says that the boy understood everything correctly. One of the students has a craftsman's union. His friends made these clothes there. According to him, the teacher does not particularly care about his clothes, and since he left it, he makes this gift. The student demanded to wear it. Ro says that it is a complicated and expensive magic, so what else would you expect from the equipment of the prophet Eisen himself? Eisen says that he does not know anything, but at that moment, he is interrupted by a fox cub that jumps right at him. The fox cub begins to lick the boy's burnt clothes. Eisen thanks the fox cub and asks him not to worry because he will fix everything. Jerome says that they are back. Ren adds that they have looked around and that everything is safe. Eisen thanks the girls and tells them to get into the carriage. He turns to the fox and says that he needs to get home. The boys head straight for the carriage, but the fox follows them. Eisen asks the fox what's going on. Ren smiles and Jerome says that this fox is already theirs and he even smells like them. Eisen asks the fox what happened and if he wants the young man to do something. The fox cub starts to snort. Eisen smiles and says he understands. The young man asks if the fox cub wants to come with them. Jerome sits down and says that she remembers Eisen picking them up the same way. The boy says that they are heading to the city. The fox starts snorting and pointing his paw to the side. Ren assumes that he wants to say something. Eisen says that it seems that his home is in that direction, but he is scared, so he wants to stay with them. The boy asks Ro if they can take him to the magical city. Ro agrees and says that he is not fierce, so it will be easy to deal with him if necessary. His friend is also a demonic beast. Eisen says that this is great and invites the fox to go with him. The little animal snorts happily and runs after them. After some time, the heroes come to the magical city of Strata. Then they head to the center of the city. Ro tells Eisen that they have arrived. He asks where the fire fox is. Eisen says that the fire fox is right in his clothes and he didn't want to leave. Ren adds that he liked it on the boy's chest. Jerome adds, laughing, that it's always more comfortable near the heart. Ro points to the side and adds that they will go to the town hall like this. He points to a building and says that it is the building at the end of the alley. Eisen asks if there will be formalities to attend to. Ro agrees and says that permission to keep the demonic beast will be required. In addition, it is possible to collect information about the search for the mayor of the trading city. Eisen agrees and says that the letter from the deputy must be passed on as soon as possible. So they go to the town hall. Eisen looks out and says that this is a very lively and beautiful city, not inferior even to a commercial one. Ro says that as the name suggests, magic is used to develop the city. It is also used in cooking. In magical kitchens, it is cooked over high heat. Frozen confectionery is also quite popular. He will show them later. Eisen says it's quite nice here. Jerome smiles and says he wants to eat. Ren adds that he'd like to try the different dishes as soon as possible. After some time, the heroes arrive at the town hall of the magical city. Ro apologizes to the group for keeping them waiting. He took care of the carriage and luggage. Eisen comments that the staff here seem to be in a hurry. Jerome adds that she is also concerned about it. Ro says that when he visited this place before, it was quieter. He will apply for permission to keep the demonic beast for now. Ro then returns and says that the application for both animals has been accepted. Eisen notes that this is pretty fast. Ro agrees and says that it doesn't look like they are busy. Then they are interrupted by a girl who says that it is really Ro. The young man recognizes the girl as Melissa and says that she has also arrived in this city. The girl says that she is the secretary of the mayor of the trading city. Then she asks who it is and assumes that it is Durham. although the girl says that her aura has changed somehow. Ro remembers being rather cold before meeting Eisen. Melissa asks what happened. Ro suggests that Melissa introduce them. These people want to visit the mayor of the trading city. The young man says that he is glad to meet you and his name is Eisen. Ren says that her name is Ren and she is pleased to meet you. The girl suggests that they call her secretary Melissa. Then the girl asks what business they have with the mayor. Eisen says he has a letter to the mayor from the deputy. He shows the envelope. Melissa replies that she sees the deputy's magical mark on it. Melissa asks if she can check. Eisen agrees since the girl is the secretary. The girl thanks the boy and says that she doesn't want to just stand there and chat, so she offers to have some tea. Then the girl reads the letter and starts sweating. Ro says Melissa's reaction is just like his. Eisen says the letter is about him too. Melissa awkwardly asks the boy if the contents of the letter are true. She asks Ro if he knew. Ro says it is all true, but the girl must keep the information a secret. She says she understands, so there is nothing strange in Durom's changed behavior. At this point, Durom was telling Ren that she had made the flowers in the teapot bloom. The girl replied that it was quite interesting. Melissa said that she understood. She hoped that the young man would give him the letter. Eisen asked if everything was all right. Melissa agrees and says she will act as a mediator. The meeting is just about to break. However, a voice is heard saying that this is not necessary. Melissa turns around. The girl says that she is the mayor of the trading city Lunette Strike. The girl adds, turning to the teacher, that she has come. Eisen smiles and tells Lunette that they haven't seen each other in a long time. The young man asks the girl how she is. Lunette replies that they have seen each other for a long time and that she is doing well. She feels better now than ever. At this point, Melissa notices that Lunette is waving her tail from side to side. At that moment, Eisen thought that showing emotions through her tail was a characteristic of her species. Durom turns to Lunette and says that she is still the same as before. The girl replies that Durom, as always, has no ounce of modesty in front of her teacher. When she led the theater group, she was similar to her. Durom laughed and said that she had changed precisely because she had left that post. Everything could have turned out differently if it hadn't been for teacher Eisen. Lunette asks why they came to town together. The girl hints that she is jealous. Durom replies that the girl is still as straightforward as ever, but they have their reasons. She then asks Lunette to introduce her to a girl named Ren. Lunette is surprised and asks if this is the same Ren who answered the teacher's letters. The girl agrees and says that she is Ren Lutostant. Durom says that their first meeting was also in a trading city. She turned out to be a wonderful person and sister. Lunette says that Durom's friends are her friends too. She is very happy to meet Ren, so the girl can call her Lunette or Sister Lunette. The girl agrees and says that it is nice to meet her. Eisen thinks that Durom and Lunette are so similar to each other. Ren will easily get along with them. He then interrupts the girls and tells her that he has come to deliver this letter to her. Lunette then approaches the boy. She says that she is very grateful. Eisen realized that Lunette has become more abrupt. After some time, the girl says that she has finished reading. The girl thanks the young man for coming all this way for the sake of the report. Eisen says that he is traveling around the world and just stopped by on the way. Luna thinks and says that the teacher is traveling with Dur and Ren, that she even envies them. Lunette then asks Melissa how long the mayor's term is. The girl smiles nervously and replies that the girl has a few more years, but for now she should give up on this idea. Lunette replies that she will continue to search for possible loopholes. Eisen says that how come the girl came to them before Melissa let her know. The girl said they had a meeting on the roof here. She saw the teacher in the carriage as they passed through the archway at the entrance to the city. She tried to calm herself down, and she paused a bit on her way to them. Ren is very surprised that it is terribly far from here to the gate. Eisen says that as expected of a sniper archer, she has very sharp eyes. Lunette clenches her fist and says that she hasn't heard that in a long time. However, he is still no match for the teacher. He will train hard. From the way her tail twitches, Eisen thinks that Lunette seems to be very pleased. Melissa tells the mayor that they really suggested taking a break in the middle of the meeting because of Eisen's arrival. Eisen is surprised and asks if they had accidentally distracted her. Eisen says that it was already approaching break time. Lunette replies that the break has given her a boost of energy, so things will be even more productive now. That's a plus, so she thanks them for stopping by. Eisen asks what kind of meeting on the roof is this. There's clearly something strange here, and isn't this a normal magical city? Lunette says that something unexpected happened. They needed to talk in a place where they could see the city and its surroundings. Eisen asks if that's really why they stayed in the magical city. Lunette agrees and says the situation threatens the city's existence. Eisen asks the girl about survival. He asks if it's okay that it's an emergency and the girl tells him about it. He doesn't know if the girl, as the mayor, can divulge this. Lunette nods and says that she doesn't want to bother the teacher, but they would appreciate it if the boy helped them. The young man says they will help. He asks Ren and Durham. The girls agree and say they will help. Ro says he will help too. He has many business partners and branches here as well as friends. He will be happy to help. Eisen says that they have decided and then asks the girl if she can tell more. Lunette says that in that case they'll go to the roof. It'll be more convincing if they talk to the other city leaders as well. The girl then turns to Melissa. The girl replies that she understands. She explained the situation to them using telepathy and they gave permission. They can invite Eisen and the others to the meeting. Eisen is very surprised that the girl negotiates with telepathy. She is only a secretary, but she is so skilled. The girl says that she will lead the guests so they can follow her. After some time, the guests come to the roof. They are met by a young man who says that Eisen is the hero and next to him are his students. He says that it is a great honor to meet them. He says that he is the leader of a magical city and his name is Shard. Everything they discussed earlier has already been conveyed to him, and he greatly appreciates their cooperation. Eisen says it's nice to meet you too. He still doesn't know anything, so he asks the man to explain the situation. Shard says it's a long story, so he suggests they sit down at the negotiating table. He says it started not long ago. He noticed a pillar of fire rising from the volcano to the east, Mount Madar. He points to the mountains and says that they are clearly visible from here. Durham asks if tourists really go to these mountains. The young man says that it is an active volcano, so it is quite possible. However, there was no ash, and as for the investigation, the cause of what happened is connected with the mistress of these mountains, Empress Akin. That is what they thought. Ren asks about the Lady of the Mountains and asks if she exists. Shard answers yes. He says that this demon is many years old. She has a long history of being a neighbor of the magical city. Ro says that's true. He heard that thanks to her, the number of other demons in the mountains did not increase. Shard agrees with the young man's words. He says that the Empress has intelligence, she knows their language. He is sure that she will not harm the people. Even in her generation, there was a wonderful relationship between the city and her. Eisen ponders and asks if anything has changed recently. Shard agrees and says that the fire pillar is the Empress magic, which is very similar to a kitsunebai. When the explorers set out for the mountain, a voice was heard midway along the way, warning them not to come any closer. They said the voice was full of anger. They felt the temperature rising and the danger. They couldn't move any further. Eisen asks what happened next. Shard explains that first, they banned climbing the mountains and it was the right decision. The pillars of fire that appear day by day are getting stronger and are burning the surface of the mountain. The mountain has become dangerous. No one knows when it will erupt again. And no one can reach the Empress's mansion on the hillside. The situation is getting worse and worse because they cannot meet her. He even thought that soon the lava would reach the city itself. There is a limit to how much magic they can suppress. Lunette adds that this is why she called them. At this rate, the magical city will become dangerous to be in. The girl takes out her bow. Eisen smiles and says that he realized that the girl is becoming a sniper again. The girl can hit a magic arrow from here right to the mountain. Shard agrees and says that the arrow is imbued with freezing magic. If lava spills over the surface of the mountain, they will simply freeze it. The embers can also be shot down if shot with precision. Eisen is surprised and says that it is not surprising that Lunette was able to do this. Lunette says distance is not a problem, but rocks and lava are more difficult. If necessary, homing arrows are used. Shard adds and says that the Empress is unleashing her wrath on the people. We use sleeping or tranquilizing arrows. In the worst case, they will release those that can kill her. That's why they're here. Eisen asks if it's really to discuss the possibilities. They wouldn't want to attack the Empress. Eisen thinks and says that if the Empress is angry, then why not talk to her? Shard adds and says that Lunette sent arrows with messages to the mountainside, but there was no response. Eisen asks if the Empress can read. Shard says that she was so close to humans. However, the city authorities are trying to cope with her anger. Day and night, people try because many people like the Empress. Lunette says that killing the Empress is the last thing they want. Eisen says he understands. The girl is doing the right thing by protecting the city. It seems her abilities haven't deteriorated at all. Lunette says that's true, it's one of the skills the teacher likes. She's been practicing all this time. The girl asked if the boy really praised her for her words, and then she asks the teacher if he can pet her. Eisen asks if the girl really wants him to pet her. Then Lunette approaches the boy and agrees. She wants the boy to stroke her when they are done. It will be her motivation. The girl asks what the teacher thinks and if he is against it. Eisen thinks that Lunette reminds him of Durham now. He agrees and says that even if they are not finished yet, he would not mind petting the girl. The young man stands up and begins to stroke Lunette. The girl starts wagging her tail. Melissa smiles. She says it's the first time she's seen the mayor like this. Durham laughs and says it's in front of the secretary too. This is surprising because Lunette is very direct in her expressions and always says what she wants. It is difficult to catch her facial expressions, and she is laconic in her letters. Ren adds that her letters are quite neat. Durham asks if she really thinks so, but she likes it as is. They will get the most out of her. Lunette says, agreeing that it's just amazing. She's motivated now. Eisen says it's very nice. Lunette then apologizes for asking to be petted, and then asks if the teacher has thought about a solution. The boy agrees and says that he has. He smiles and says that it would be better to ask the Empress herself first. If they are lucky, he will ask her. Everyone is surprised. Shard says that it is very dangerous to approach her. Eisen agrees and says that, however, acting rashly without knowing anything is also dangerous. He suggests taking a short walk and coming back. Eisen's clothes. Shard asks Eisen who it is. Eisen says that they saved him from demons on the way to the city. Maybe that's why he was so shy and didn't show up before. The boy then asks the fox what's wrong. Could it be that he saw something and maybe he has a house up there on the mountain? The fox snorts. Eisen says it will be dangerous, but he wants to take the risk. He asks if there is a reason not to go there. Then the boy turns to Shard and says that he will go to the mountains. He wants to see the state of the Empress and the house of this little one. Shard asks the boy if he is sure. He then agrees and says that they have once again assembled a group of explorers. He hopes that he can accompany the boy on his journey. Eisen agrees and says that it will help a lot. He thanks Shard. The boy replies that it is all he can do. Shard says he is grateful that the young man is willing to undertake such a dangerous adventure. He would like to avoid an attack on the Empress, so he is happy to cooperate. Eisen agrees. The next day they set off for the mountain. They harness the unicorn, as they can easily pull large vehicles, and they chose Ro as the driver, as he can use his magical eye to explore the area. Everyone was sitting in the carriage. Melissa thanked Eisen for his attention. She was glad that they could work together with the prophet who was the subject of so many legends. Melissa followed them as a liaison. The magical city has a device that adjusts the accuracy and range of telepathy. This allows her to easily contact Shard. Also with them was a mountain expert, geographer Nicholas, and a track worker named Tyler. They thanked everyone for their cooperation. Lunette also went with them, along with the soldiers of the magical city and the magicians helping them. Along the way, they will come out at a sniper point. In the worst case, they will wait near the mountain so that they can shoot from a safe distance. Lunette says it's been a long time since she and the teacher went anywhere. She's glad they're back together. Eisen says it's been so many years since the war. The girl says she remembers how all of them, the students, stuck to the teacher. Durham adds that that's why they all became students at the same time. Lunette used to be talkative. The girl says it was fun. She enjoyed the conversations. There was a time when they had competitions in shooting with a gun and a bow. Durham says they used so much to vary the shooting. They shot so much that the hills where the demons had built their fortresses were leveled to the ground. Ren asks if it was really just the two of them. Lunette agrees and says that their shelling was making it too hot. Durham tells the teacher that magic is wonderful, but it was unnecessary to level the hill. Eisen says that it was necessary to defeat the demon, but leaving them unattended was a waste of territory. Ren says that Eisen's students have been doing great things for a long time. Melissa replies that, from the outside, it seems like they were doing something ridiculous. Ro then stops the carriage and tells Lunette that they have arrived at their destination. Eisen says if the tower is really a wartime watchtower. Lunette says that City Hall workers are sleeping there now. She's still good and can shoot from the roof. At that range, the arrow's power won't decrease. Magic arrows give you more options because you don't have to worry about the damage around you. Eisen says that all of this is true, but depending on the shooter, the impact of the shot can have dire consequences. Lunette says that they will have to split up. Eisen says that they will see Lunette again. He asks the girl to let him know if she needs anything. The girl says that she understands and will do everything possible. After some time, they stopped in a covered hut near the mountain. They saw a sign from the Administrative Bureau of the Magical City, stating that entry to the territory was prohibited due to an emergency situation. People ask if this is the starting point. Others say that these black spots are traces burned by the flames. It even came close to the entrance. If someone had entered here, they would have suffered. However, there were two people with them who were familiar with geography. Also Melissa, who can instantly contact him. Then Ro, with Ren and Durham protecting their rear. They stand in front of the mountain and begin their climb.